Well, welcome to Hands on Heroes, the podcast, and I really appreciate you joining me today here at the Climate Accord Summit, their very first face-to-face.
So excited to be here. Thank you.
Why don't we start with introducing
and tell our audience a little bit about who you are.
My name is Alison Tyndall.
I am
Leyva.
So my name is Amir, Ehsaei.
My name is Louis Liu.
My name is Gertsman.
I'm Roland Ruprecht.
So my name is Casey Nares.
Amazing.
So we're almost 4 years into the Climate Accord. We decided to finally put us all in the same room. We've been on a lot of Zoom calls together. We've even seen each other sort of half and half at other industry events, but to really tap the brain trust of our sustainability professionals, of those of us doing the work when it comes to emission reductions, we felt like the only way to do this is get them in person.
Welcome to Hands on Heroes podcast. I'm Val Crafton, the voice of grit. I champion the people who power progress and prove that the future is built by those willing to get their hands dirty. Let's dive in.
All right, welcome to Hands on Heroes, and I am here with Miranda, who has put together this amazing event, the Ehsaei, which is the Climate Accord for Infrastructure Masons. Miranda, tell us a little bit of how you got involved in this and why this event is so important.
Well, thanks, Val, for having me. This is, as you mentioned, the first Ehsaei, or the iMasons Climate Accord in-person event, our first summit.
Amazing.
So we're almost 4 years into the Climate Accord. We decided last year that it would be really an opportunity to finally put us all in the same room. We've been on a lot of Zoom calls together. We've even seen each other sort of half and half at other industry events, but to really tap the brain trust of our sustainability professionals, of those of us doing the work when it comes to emission reductions, we felt like the only way to do this is get them in person, get them working together and listening and learning and collaborating in the same space.
I think that's amazing. I actually wrote down something I heard earlier about moving the needle and really developing a more sustainable solution. And what are they doing right now? They're in these little groups. They're kind of voting on what we think we should really kind of move forward. Is that what's happening? Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Exactly. So right now we're on day one of the summit, and the working groups themselves. So we have three verticals in the Climate Accord. Let me back that up. Materials, equipment, and then power energy. And actually for 2026, we will also be exploring water and where that fits into a decarbonization solution. So right now they've broken out into sort of these charrette formatted workshops together, looking at various problem statements that our industry is facing when it comes to those topics, and how or where we can develop solutions, white papers, webinars, you name it, right? That's what they're determining right now. They're also going to put together sort of mini work plans for it, because it's wonderful to have ideas. How do you do them? Right. How do you make impact? How do you scale? It's a whole different story. And so we've asked them to do all that. The goal is we'll walk out of this summit this week with all of that on the plate, and then we'll go to the larger membership and say, hey, stack rank these so we can turn them into our 2026, 2027 roadmap and plan and work for the future of the Climate Accord.
So excited to be here podcasting and kind of sharing this, because
thank you for joining us.
Yes,
seriously.
I'm so happy to be here, because there's so many different paths into this industry. And if people are thinking about, transferable skills and how to sustainability is very much a subject. And even though data centers have this bad rap in the communities, they don't know what they don't know. We're very much, this is a great example, working very hard behind the scenes to come up with solutions. We're not just talking about it, we're actually putting actions and plans in place. Like you said, we're developing what scalability looks like. We're imagining and dreaming what is possible right now.
Exactly. And we're using real world examples of things that have already been deployed. We're using things like specification language, design spec, baseline spec. We're using things like contract language. We're leaning into things like our maturity model that was issued and published earlier this year. How do we take that into things like rating systems that certify buildings, or reporting criteria like GRES when you're looking at your portfolios and the financial impacts of this? We are really ensuring that data center responsibility is at the forefront of this, so that we can ensure others realize the great work that's going on and also take responsibility. We know we're using a lot of resources. We know we're sort of, if you will, quote unquote, the baddies on the block right now. But I mean, that doesn't mean that narrative is an entirely truthful one. And so our goal is, again, let's go do the things to make impact and really show how this is possible for a sustainable future with data centers.
It's amazing. It's very important, right? It's no longer a conversation around being a tree hugger. That's not what it is anymore. It's genuinely what is required for future generations. I know this is very exciting for Gen Z, especially. So as we're thinking about future workforce and how they're looking at future places they want to work even, and how are they, dealing with sustainability into the future? I love this subject. I love that we had a summit this year. I love that I'm at the first one. This is amazing.
We love that you're recording from here. And also actually tomorrow on day 2, we have a number of students coming from USC, UC Berkeley, Stanford. Obviously, we're in California, so, hence all the California schools, but a lot of emerging professionals, because you're right. It is forefront of what they're studying in school right now, what they're asking out of their employers, and what they're really passionate about because they have seen the impacts. They've grown up with the impacts of climate change. And, whether you believe in it or not, it really does have an impact also on your bottom line. So for future business, this
Life
is
cycle
strategies.
costs.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
And so it's also not a bad place to be having the event. I mean, I can see the beach from here. So, I'm in a
Welcome
happy
to Santa
place.
Monica. No, we were discussing this earlier this year of where we'd like to locate it. And, selfishly, I'm based here. And so to help organize it was like, let's do it somewhere that I don't have to travel too far to. But again, December, Santa Monica, 70 degrees outside and sunny. We're going to get a beautiful sunset. So that also puts everyone in a good mood to have discussions that are hard. These are challenging.
These are challenging. Well, I also agree with the location beyond the selfish reason. I mean, let's call it what it is. California is probably one of the forefronts who's always made sustainability on the forefront of their mind across businesses and across the state. So I think it's a great place to have it, actually, because I can walk right outside and there's a recycle bin for every single type of thing you want to throw away. I mean, it's everywhere you look when I travel through California. So I think it's a perfect place to have this.
California tends to set the kind of bar very high. And when you see what drives things like, let's say, LEED certification for buildings, a lot of the early references were California standards. Then you look at the economics of it. I think California is now the 7th largest economy if you looked at it as its own country.
Right.
So, I mean, this is stuff that, as I said, makes sense business-wise. When you look at things like Clean Air Acts, when you look at, I'm going to misquote the dates and the names of all of these, but when they set policies, the world takes notice. It's usually between them and the EU is where you'll find that stringency really setting the bar high, and then everyone working closely to ensure that they're, and luckily we do have some people from various municipalities and local groups. USGBC California was here today. We have one of our local water municipalities showing up, some of our power groups to talk about what's going on in California this week.
Well, I think it's a really, like we've already said, it's a really important conversation, and it's beyond being a tree hugger. It's the future. And the reason why communities are pushing back for development of data centers in their communities is because they're scared. They're afraid of us sucking up all of their resources. And so if we don't go in and show them, no, we're being highly responsible. We're being very forward thinking. We're planning, we're scaling, and we're not going to put you in that situation because you all can't really live without this other utility. So we're going to have to work and figure out how we get smarter and work together and get the community to really accept that. And I think this is part of that education and outreach right now, right? Just from a sustainability perspective.
It's also, to all those points that you made, Val, the space that really invests in a lot of this, if you look at the biggest purchasers, investors, and things like renewable energy sources, it comes from the big tech players. If you look at things like, again, the materials transition to greener, cleaner materials, how the grid is transforming. Again, a lot of onus is falling on digital infrastructure because we are the biggest players in the market beyond government. So, we are taking that leap and that responsibility, but there's just a tremendous amount of movement happening that I think I would say in the next year or so, you'll see it coming out more. And I hope it gives these communities a lot more assurance on the responsible building that these companies are doing. And also for us to take note of what are you concerned about and how can we address this? You're right. It's everyone uses these services, whether they know it or not. So, we've got to find a way. It's not going away. And we've got to find a right solution for it.
100%. All right. So this is the first summit. You were sold out. First summit.
First summit sold out.
Amazing. Incredible.
Thank you.
Are we going to be in the same place next year? Because if it's sold out this year, it's going to be bigger next year.
It's going to be bigger next year. I don't know.
We haven't thought that far ahead.
We'll think through it. I think we'll also probably, again, take some polling on the date, the time, the location. But I also love a size of about 200, 250, which is what this size is, because you do get to know everyone. You do get the chance to work on things. If you look at the makeup of the companies here, nobody is running deep in terms of, it's 20 from one company. Yeah. So that is really exciting to see that we've got colos, we've got hyperscalers, we've got power, we've got, the universities that I mentioned, we've got equipment providers, we've got the AC community, we've got our other trade associations and nonprofits in the room. I mean, the bench is deep and they are all here represented, which really excites me even more than the sold out crowd. That it's like, if I look down my list, it's like different company.
Full ecosystem, collaborating.
Full. I would say it's at least 150 different companies sitting in these rooms right now.
And since I'm sitting next to the vendors who are sponsoring some of this and their tables, they have consistently had people at their table talking with them the entire time because of this close intimacy that this brings. I think that's just a beautiful thing. So definitely worth being a part of. Not only is it important, but from a value perspective, you're going to get a lot out of it.
What's nice real quick on the vendors and the sponsors of this event, which I can't think enough of, I don't want to say them all because if I miss one, I'm going to kick myself. What's also really nice is we did a lot of fundraising through our ticket sales and the people in the room. So a good amount of the funding of this came from our members. Amazing. And the value they see in being here too. So I love to see that because we're not here to make a profit. We are here though to have people who are invested in what we're doing.
That is incredible. Tomorrow is day 2. What are we going to expect for tomorrow?
Tomorrow's our main day summit. So we have a lot of exciting announcements that are coming out, which I know you can talk about on the podcast or we can talk about later. Yeah. Our governing body will take the stage. Okay. We have an opening keynote from a professor at USC joining us, talking again about the global picture and the economics of this. We're going to get into scope 3. That's the foundation of the ICA. We're also going to get into water, as I said, the kind of one of the newest initiatives. Plus we're going to build water filters. So we have a bit of a community project. And then closing us out, we have a panel with our other 4 of our other industry associations. So Global Electronics Council, U.S. Green Building Council, GBI, and GRESB. And so we're really thrilled to bring them up all on stage. It's an all-women panel, which is always fun. Thrilling. Yes. And we'll do that. And then we have a really wonderful celebration evening of holiday sweaters at our local brewery. And I'm really thrilled that everyone came and joined. So 6 big panels, several big announcements, and then of course a big send off into 2026 tomorrow evening. I love it.
And this is such a great end of the year. It's been an amazing year. I've gone to a lot of conferences and this one is already showing up as a very special, and I'm so glad to be here. On a non-serious note, I always like to ask real fun questions and get a little audacious here. And I pulled a card out of my conversation stack. And this one was, what book do you wish you'd written?
Great question. When I was little, there's a book that stood out to me and it still reminds me. It's called You Look Ridiculous, Said the Rhinoceros to the Hippopotamus. Oh. And I think it's out of print now, but it was all about accepting people that are different and understanding that, our differences make us special and they also bring everything together. And it's something that this year we could have used a lot more of, whether it's conversations we have here or just in the bigger scheme of things. So if you don't know it or if you have children, I recommend looking and finding it because it's still with me today. And, however many years later, I won't date myself yet.
I have a similar book that I love reading. It's called The Odd Dog Out. Yeah. And I love that book so much because, here he's different, but everybody, and he just wants to fit in so bad. And he finally gets to a place where he fits in and he meets somebody who doesn't fit in. He's like, I understand you. Like, I once used to be, he's like, no, I'm good. I'm special. Like, I like being different. I don't want to be like everybody else. And in an industry where we're really starting to learn there are different learning styles, there are different neurodivergent brains, and we all kind of come into these things with these different perspectives. And especially if we think about future generations, which of course I'm very passionate about, I start to think about all of the fun ways we learn, and how do we bring the, hey, it's okay if you don't fit in a box of the typical school environment of sitting behind the desk, learn, read, and memorize. You are someone who is thinking, you're creative, you're hands-on, and that's definitely what I try to do as part of Hands-On Heroes, is create that experience. So
that's what we've tried to do at Summit too. We've got workshops, we've got learning online, we've got the sessions in person, we've got networking pieces, and then we have another whole set of workshops on Wednesday too, again, to try and tap into the various ways our brains work, the various ways people like to engage. We were throwing some weird ones out there, and someone said to me, you can't do that. That's maybe a little too much. Like, I didn't want to give name tags to force people to go talk to others. Like, I can't see that it's Valerie. I have to go say hi and meet someone. So it is definitely front and center to why we invited you, and thank you for joining us, and what we're intending and keep trying to do. That you're right, so many different ways to learn, so many different ways to absorb the information. How do we communicate that?
And the partnerships that it brings together, and what that you've created here is just, it's that natural, organic partnership and conversation, leaving names and titles sometimes at the door to have this conversation. We're coming together to create a solution, all rowing in the same direction. That's how things get done.
If you see on your name tag too, your company is very little.
The company, I can't, well, I actually need to put my glasses on.
Right? Because in some ways it's about the individuals, it's about who's coming in their space and getting to know them, not, oh, you work for this company. And sometimes we get caught up in that.
Well, and that's why I love just talking about the human story, and more than, the company that most people come over and it's like, oh, I don't really have permission to talk about my company. And it's like, oh, no. I just want to capture your human story. You traveled into this industry somehow, and it's going to inspire a future generation because they're going to see something in one of the folks that I interview. And I just think that's incredible.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for taking a few minutes and giving us a highlight as first guest on the Hands-On Hero podcast, the ICA Summit 2025 first. That's so exciting.
Thank you. And thank you
Miranda.
Again for interviewing me.
Of course. Cheers. Well, welcome to Hands-On Heroes, the podcast, and I really appreciate you joining me today. We're here at the Climate Accord, where they're meeting for the first time in person. I'm excited to get your perspective on that. Before we kick off, though, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and how do you fit into the sustainability circle? Let's see if I can speak after Dave interviews.
I know, it's been a great day. It's been a busy couple days here. Yes. This is actually my first time here, so it's great to be meeting everybody for the first time, connecting with other decarbonization folks who are passionate about the planet like we are too. So my name is Alison Tyndall. I'm the Director for Industrial Innovations at ClimeCo, and I work more on the project side, so I help lead projects that decarbonize heavy industry, meaning we've reduced greenhouse gas emissions, or we help shift production of something from a high carbon product to a lower carbon product.
Give me an example of what that means. Like, for the layman person who's listening in, how do you shift carbon?
So in a lot of industries, cement being one of them, there's the traditional way of making it, of building things. And that sometimes hasn't been done in the most sustainable way, right? And just because it's how we've done something doesn't mean that's how we should keep doing it, right? There's new technologies, new processes, new innovation that's come along. Sometimes those can be more expensive or harder to use or implement. And so what we do is we help create an incentive for people to adopt those novel technologies or new processes or even new materials sometimes.
Right.
And so we help people overcome barriers, and those barriers can be cost barriers. They can just be knowledge barriers or education gaps. Maybe they're not aware of the novel material. They don't really know how to use it in their current processes. Right. And so we help close some of those gaps, working both with the project developers, the people who are actually doing the change, and those who maybe want to fund the change, but don't know who's doing it. Right. So we help connect those dots.
Oh, amazing. That's incredible.
It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so tell me, how long have you been in the sustainability industry?
So I've actually been with ClimeCo for about 2.5 years, and I'm fairly new to the official sustainability space.
Yes.
But there's been a sustainability thread throughout my career. So I've spent about 10 years in everything from supply chains. My background's mechanical engineering. So I started in heating, ventilation, air conditioning, plumbing design.
Yes.
So started learning about LEED buildings and Energy Star efficient products, right? So started off there, went into manufacturing. Obviously, there's a huge waste reduction component to that. Went into supply chain software, and looking at just reducing inventory. So there's always been that thread, but officially 2.5 years.
Amazing. Well, I just love how, and I always love to point this out when we're talking with new folks in the industry. There's so many paths that we enter in these industries. And when I think about, data centers, and a lot of people don't even know what a data center is, sustainability has always been this, it's a tree hugger thing, but it's not, right?
It's not.
It's come so far, and there's so many studies to just say, hey, this is much bigger than, a fad, for example. And so when I think about your path and how you kind of pivoted toward this, kind of almost sounding like you combined your passion and your career into one space.
Very much so.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
So we're here at the Climate Accord, and we're meeting face to face. And what do you think about it so far?
I think it's such a necessary organization. It's such a needed meeting.
Right.
I think it's such a busy world nowadays, and the folks who are here have so much on their plate. Right. I think the biggest thing about sustainability and any green initiative is we needed it yesterday.
Yes.
And so we have so many draws on our time. And to get everybody in the same room where phones get put away, laptops get put away, and the focus is on what can we do together. Right. I think that is such a magical space and something that's so critical that we do. It also helps that we're in beautiful LA here, so there's a bit of an incentive. I'm from Canada, so I said goodbye to the snow to fly down here. But no, it's just fantastic to put the focus on something, put it on the table, get everybody from so many different areas that otherwise maybe wouldn't cross paths to focus on solving the same problem together.
That's amazing. So what part, I know there were pillars, material, power, water. What part did you take part of?
So
and equipment. I think I missed the equipment.
Yeah, equipment. So we're part of the materials working group.
Okay.
So we're going to take a look at how do we incentivize the use of, like I said, lower carbon materials, maybe alternate materials. And we play a lot in the cementitious space. So supplementary cementitious materials, or SCMs. And so we're going to help support not just access to those products, but also how do you account for that in your value chain? Right. With these large global supply chains, that can be a challenge. And some of the guidance that's coming out, it's in development, it's still being developed. And so we're going to help put that together in the materials working group.
I love that, because I know I was doing a study with a design firm. They needed somebody with a construction constructability background, and just talking to them about utilizing heavy timber, for example, in lieu of precast. And the conversation was with the general contractor and the design team, and they were struggling to get the general contractor to really tell them what the alternative cost would be if we swapped out some of the precast for the heavy timber. And what I'm hearing you say is when you make that dot connection for them, sometimes the resistance to change is because they don't know what they don't know. They haven't played in that field before. They don't know where to get the materials. They don't have the resource, the trade, the vendor, the supply chain relationships. And so when you're coming in, you're connecting the dots, you're kind of eliminating these barriers, and you're allowing them to say, oh, well then, yeah, of course we'll do it. So quickly people will just lean toward that dancing with the devil, they know, right? And it's just, it could be a nightmare, a terrible carbon footprint output. But it's what they understand. They've been wrestling with for a really long time. They go with what's comfortable. And so I love that you're kind of removing that out of their way and just saying, hey, I'm creating a path for you. Now do you see the path, and can you go down it? I love that. Tell me, what is one of the biggest things these days that you're seeing that is having the largest impact from a material perspective?
I think we have some folks in the room here today that are really driving it, but it's getting alignment on demand signals. So what is the need, and can we be really clear on what that need is? Because as you said, if we're trying to implement change, That's scary, right? Folks have been doing the same thing. It doesn't matter what the change is, it's going to be scary. And so there's a lot of folks who want to change, right? We all want to save the planet. We all want to have a better planet.
100%. But we've been changing since we were born.
Yes, that's what we do as humans, right?
That's what we do.
Yeah.
We change and evolve and so forth. So it always surprises me when people get a little scared of change. But it's
but we can get comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And so there's always this kind of barrier to getting uncomfortable. And a lot of the times people know why they want to change, but they don't know the how.
Right.
And so what I think is really important is if we can get clear on the demand signals from the folks who have the ability to impact, they can actually clarify what that demand signal is. And that helps people understand the how pathway. And the clearer you can make that how, the easier it is for people to take those first steps.
Right.
When there's too many pathways or the pathways are unclear, people tend to hesitate taking one or the other.
Or you try to throw it in like at the last minute to check a box. And you're like, okay, we've gotten everything under budget. Now let's throw some sustainability ideas in here. And everybody's kind of running with their head cut off and they don't know where to go.
No.
Because it wasn't ever a part of the original plan.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things on the education side is sustainability needs to be part of the design decision. And so one of the activities here is getting the right folks at the table so that when we're making those upfront early stage design decisions, they're aware of what options they have. Right? We don't know what we don't know. And so is there the option today to get a lower carbon material? If there isn't near me, right? Because some of these industries are very regional. If you're building a data center in Phoenix, you want to not have to truck in equipment as much as possible. So is there the low carbon option near me? Or if not, can I incentivize somebody else to make that change using a virtual environmental attribute and still fund that required change? Even if I don't have direct access to that physical product, I can still have that influence and that impact.
Now, you said it would be the biggest impact if we had visibility to the demand. Now, when you said that, I thought of one thing. I thought of procurement and supply chain, right? And when I'm going to procurement and supply chain, they have a KPI. And they're like, this is what I'm being told I need to get the best deals on, beef up my supplier list to reach out to, right? Because each of them are going to have different lead times and depending on what the product is. And then often, and I've done a lot of forensic studies around this, where often the root cause of that disconnect is what we're selling and the front end and promising on the front end isn't told to the procurement team, and the KPIs aren't aligned. No one's, here I'm setting up really great deals on certain materials, and then you come to me with this random sustainability thing going, hold on, I understand that's part of your goal, but that's not part of my goal.
Yes,
and
so there's a goals disconnect.
There's a goals disconnect. And so sometimes that demand is really, from a visibility perspective, is just knowing that that's even on your radar and getting everybody on page. So I think bringing those procurement folks and the supply chain folks into the conversation while you're trying to decide what that design looks like, when there's deciding whether or not sustainability is going to be a part of this project, which it should be a conversation from the beginning, not an alternate.
In our ideal world.
In an ideal world. In an ideal world. I believe we're going to get there. I really do.
I think we can. We're seeing these large ships moving in that direction, but it takes a long time to turn a big ship, right? And the issue with trying something new or starting on a new pathway is it's high risk. And so the folks that can afford to take those risks are the larger companies. There are hyperscalers. They're willing to put their neck out a little bit and go out ahead before the guidance documents are completed. That has an element of risk. You have to be able to carry that risk. Those large companies have complexities within their companies. So you may have so many different departments who have different goals. And that's where having sustainability leaders sitting on that C-suite, sitting on the board, and having those directives come really from top down, making sure that everyone is aligned on those goals and that we're all paddling in the same direction. That is how we're going to have these hyperscalers lead and be able to absorb any risk as market changes, because we know it's going to happen. They're able to do that, but as a unified front. And so that's where organizations like this are great, because we bring them all together. Instead of having these siloed pockets, they're able to gain alignment within their companies, but also throughout this organization, throughout the industry. And then that unified signal to the market will allow maybe those who can't absorb as much risk to follow their lead. And that clarity is just going to be what flows through these supply chains and flows through these value chains and enables the folks that want to do right, but need to be able to sell their product or need to be able to fund their project. That enables them that signal that they can then take on that risk.
That's incredible. And it's so true. When you're talking about risk, I start thinking about, it's what we don't know, right? We're identifying this as a risk because it's new.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just new.
It's just new.
Yeah.
People don't like change.
Yep.
That's hard. Change is hard. And I think our fight or flight kind of kicks in because it's this risky thing that I don't understand. I don't know what the results are going to be yet. So where are you piloting it? That's my question. Where are you going to pilot it first so you can learn all the things where you have maybe some flexibility?
Mm-hmm. And that's where I think having conversations like this and making it okay to have a growth mindset and making it okay to learn as we go and not needing to know every answer when we first take off on that first step.
Yeah.
That mindset and having other people around you supporting you in that mindset and saying, we're going to link arms. We're taking these risks together. I'll have your back when we learn these lessons, right? It's not going to be a personal fault. We're all stepping forward in this together. I think that gives people the freedom to take those chances and to be a little bit more open to that growth.
Oh, I love that. Now, you said something around risk, and it made me think about how a lot of corporations have a white paper process to approve the change. And that white paper process can sometimes be years.
Yes.
Years long to get
Absolutely.
approved. And so it's like you've got to figure out, for some, especially for data centers, we like repeatability. There's a certain design with a certain client, and that's that.
We love a good copy paste, right?
Yes.
In life.
I mean, because speed is king.
Yes.
Speed is king.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a project where you have that flexibility and the two come together, kind of like what's happening today. The two come together and say, we both agree this is important.
Yep.
And we're going to work together to expedite that white paper.
Yeah.
And we're going to pilot this on one project. And we're going to learn all the things. And it's going to become a standard on the next project.
Yeah.
And the next one and the next one. So no longer is it new.
Yeah.
It's been tried.
Yes.
And so it's just do the first one.
Yeah.
And know there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. Document it. Don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the thing is I think having it in your process when you are doing that copy paste, and is there an element of a retroactive look back every single time?
Like that.
Right?
Yes.
The first time you do something, it's going to take you longer than the second time.
That's right.
So use that extra little space to apply any new learnings. It can be so tempting to just start going faster and faster and faster. And speed is key right now.
Yep.
And that we heard that from everybody today. Number one thing is speed, right? We need to get to market. We need to meet this demand signals that we're seeing. How do we do it faster and faster and faster? But can you add an element of every time we do it again, what can we learn? What can we apply that we learned before? And how do we get a little bit better every single time?
Every single time. But you have to take the first step. Otherwise, how do we get there?
Yeah.
Well, I love this conversation. You've spent some time working in the sessions the last few days. It sounds like they were very successful. I love the diversity of thought that I'm seeing.
It's been really exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah. So like you were saying, I mean, you're really getting the different perspectives within that full supply chain as well. And be courageous is what we heard today.
Yes.
Right? Just be courageous and put it on the first project. I had a friend say that she really thinks that sustainability should be treated equal to ADA and within the design. And once upon a time, ADA wasn't in our design at all.
It wasn't. Yeah.
I mean, people just, with special needs had to figure out how they're going to get inside a building because there were no ramps.
Yeah.
Right. And certainly awkward when they don't have the turns radius space to go to the bathroom or open a door. They're waiting for someone to walk by to open their doors. So once upon a time, that was hard. Right. And I think that was something interesting that Michael said today is we built this, we can dismantle it and we can rebuild it. And I think what you're saying is beautiful that you're coming in and you're helping folks fast forward to their future state.
Ideal. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up the courage piece because we just had such a powerful keynote speech on that this morning. It was fantastic. And one of the things that I really loved in the working groups too is we saw courage demonstrated in the sense where we started off just stating, what are the problems we're all facing? And I think it takes courage to offer up your issues and stand there and say, I don't know how to solve this. But then when you have a few other folks go, same with me, say, okay, then we have a team and we're solving this together. So that first step of these working groups was really courageous, and it was so fun. We ended up changing completely the problem statements and working that together. And we've really started to bundle issues together in a way that feels so much more solvable than it did 24 hours ago. Even.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I love that not only are you coming together, you're making these decisions and like you said, something that you can actually bite off and say, okay, I can actually move the needle with with these ideas. Yeah. But the fact that everybody's here to get together and face to face, there's a little bit of camaraderie. And almost everybody I've interviewed, interesting enough, has similar stories where they've come into sustainability in an indirect way.
Fair.
It's not where they started.
Yep.
Right? It was not their focus, but somewhere along their career, they saw a gap. And they wanted to do something about it.
Yeah.
And the stories have been, we could go back to school. I'm gonna pivot into a new space to help drive this in my own industry.
Yeah.
Nobody else is volunteering to be the expert, so I am, and starting to write policies. I mean, I've heard this huge array of things, but they've all been in the last less than a decade.
Fair. Well, prior to that, it wasn't really a big space. Like I know when I went to school, there was maybe an available course or two, but it wasn't a focus. You couldn't choose it. So I think all of us had it in us, right? We've always cared. And I think that's what you'll find in this room are the people care. We care very, very directly to the point where it's personal for all of us, right? You can, when you speak to people, you feel it. They care about this. And this is how they want to spend their life and their legacy. And the other thing is we love to solve a good problem, right? I always tell people, I'm like, don't tempt me with a good problem because I will be here. If you put a puzzle in front of me, I will puzzle until it's solved. I can't help myself.
Same way. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think you find that as a common thread in here. We have grit, we have resilience. We don't like to give up on a good, juicy problem. And this is the problem of our time, right? And so you find that commonality of these people. And so there's that passion, that care, that grit, that problem solving, that innate curiosity.
Yes.
And I just think it makes such a fun, magical sort of just
out of the box thinkers all in one space, but with different perspectives.
Completely different backgrounds. And what I love is every single background that people have had, that have taken, whatever pathway they've taken to get here, we all speak the same language now, but they can bring so many diverse perspectives to the table. And you learn things because sustainability infiltrates everything that we do. You need people who have done 1,000,001 other things in order to make sure that what we solve for is a holistic solution.
Yeah, I entered into the data center space about 21 years ago. Okay. And about as much sustainability discussions we talked about was LEED certification on our data centers.
Yeah.
Right. So
we're replacing light bulbs.
We were low flush toilets.
Yes, exactly.
Brown water watering the lawn.
Yeah. 10 points.
Somebody on the project who is certified. Check.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It was very low bar back then. Yeah.
And I remember just kind of coming out of college and being like, okay, I'm gonna get my LEED certification. This is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And that was really my first introduction. And it felt so like learning a new language in a way, right? Yeah. Because these were new standards and new ways that had to fit in, and everything meant something else, and this could minus that, and that could plus this, and it was very confusing. But you eventually kind of fell into you figured it out eventually.
Yeah.
And fast forward, here we are. We're talking about it as people with the job full-time jobs.
Yes.
Doing this as a focus, and I feel like we've come a long way in the last 2 decades for sustainability, and it's so empowering and incredibly inspiring to see where we've come, where it's going, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
I was going to say, I think that's the exciting part is the people that we have in these rooms, we've kind of crafted our career in a sense. So we've made it fit what matters to us. And I would challenge everybody else to do the same thing because that's how we've ended up here, right? I didn't have somebody hand me my job description. We've kind of built it as we go. Yeah. And I think one of the things, Climco has this value of entrepreneurial spirit. And yes, we're a company. Yes, we all work together. We have jobs to do, but we're challenged to think outside the box constantly and act as though we're an entrepreneur and this is our company. And how would we guide it or direct it? And I think people should have the same attitude towards their career. You own your career as if it's your own business. What do you want your career to look like, right? What jobs do you see needed in the future? And how do you step into that position? And so I'm excited to see all of our roles and jobs transform as well. But I'm excited to see the folks who maybe aren't in the sustainability space today, but are going to come up with the most creative way to enter it that we didn't even see coming. Wow. I'm excited for that.
Yes. I think that's incredible. And I'm excited to say in the last 2 decades to have watched this evolve and to get to watch it grow.
It won't look the same in 10 years.
It's not going to look the same in 10 years. And I feel like we've got this really incredible momentum. Mm-hmm. The ball's just going to keep getting faster and faster. I can't wait to be having a conversation with someone and say, look at us now.
I want to look back in 10 years and just how we laughed about LEED certification with the bare bones. I want to look back and go, remember when we were trying to figure out how to decarbonize data centers?
Something that was amazing.
How silly was that? We had no idea, right? And so I want to get there, and I know we can. And it's going to take a lot more people that are in this room, but it's possible, right?
100%.
Because we've come this far, and it's going to take creativity and innovation and grit and passion and all the things we talked about. But I think innately, the people who have found themselves in this industry, we have that in us.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you for kind of diving in, not only sharing your story, talking about your experience here at the Climate Accord, very first face-to-face meeting, and above all of that, just kind of dreaming a little bit with me about what the future is going to look like. It's going to be this beautiful thing. But now I want to have a little fun.
All right.
Yeah. And I have a little question for you.
Okay.
And maybe we'll learn a little something. We'll see how you spin this. Right. Everybody's had a little spin on theirs. And how do you bring this back? What adjective do you hope describes you when you are 75?
It's funny because I could take this so many different ways. I hope when I'm 75, people look at me and they're like, that girl is crazy, right? She's crazy in the sense of she had this crazy idea and she just believed she could, so she did, right? And I think that level of fun insanity is what's needed. And I think that people who dare to be a little bit out of the box, a little bit different, who maybe can be looked at as crazy, sometimes have these crazy ideas, these
audacious
crazy
ideas,
right?
Yes.
Bold enough that it scares you. I think I want that when I'm 75, people look and go, man, she had some crazy ideas. That girl was crazy sometimes, and we didn't know if it was going to pan out, or she took these risks, she made these pivots, changed her mind 18 times, right? But I really want people to look at me and go, I want to have the courage to be crazy like she did.
That's incredible. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to Hands on Heroes, Patty. It's very excited to have you on this podcast with me. I mean, you've been on the podcast before, but this is the first time you've been at a face-to-face Climate Accord Summit with these folks, right? And if folks are just listening in and you've not met Patty or know who she is, let's just kick off with a little introduction. Tell us a little bit about you.
I am Patty Leyva. I work for Equinix, a large global data center digital infrastructure company, and I, work in our sustainability program office. I helped start the program back in 2015. We did our very first annual report. From there, we've just kind of continued to build out the program, and now I've kind of transitioned away from reporting to a little bit more support on the go-to-market side. So focusing on sales enablement and engagement globally, and really helping drive the conversations with the customers and the partners.
That's incredible. But what's interesting, and I personally find the most interesting, and I love sharing your story because you didn't come into this industry traditionally. And I feel like that's pretty normal for folks in sustainability. That once upon a time, nobody was taking it seriously. And so you really took marketing and sales and said, hey, I can turn this into a story that we can tell. And now here, everybody wants to talk about it. and you've been doing it way longer. How long has it been now?
It'll be 11 years next year.
Amazing.
Which is crazy. And, from a sales and marketing perspective, I came into sustainability on accident by helping build out our very first sustainability report. And that was an experience that, we thought, wouldn't take that long. And, 8 months later, we had a report and, by the way, we're doing it again. What? Every year. And so it's been really great to have our team grow so that we can actually have other people support. And, it's just wonderful to kind of see the initiative that you helped start come into, full bloom.
Yeah, it was like a baby. It was like your little baby, right? And you've watched it kind of grow into this full-on toddler who very much wants to get rebellious.
Yeah, I think it's in the adolescent teenage stage right now.
For sure. We want to go and disrupt some things right now. And you've got a lot of people behind you and supporting you, which is why we're here today. Yeah. The Climate Accord. And you've been meeting with these folks virtually up until now. Today, we met for the very first time, face to face. Miranda was so excited about this. It was sold out. People coming together, the entire ecosystem here. Do you think she accomplished what she needed to accomplish?
I think she did. One of the things that I keep saying is we really need to get together and get aligned on what our stories are, what our messaging needs to be, what we need as an industry. And I think having this opportunity to have, the providers, the utilities, the power generation teams, all of these groups come together and actually have open discussion is step one.
And what pillar were you a part of today? Because I understand it was broken up into pillars. And I've heard there's material pillar. There's a couple of, what parts were you in?
I was on the energy pillar for power.
Oh, beautiful. And what were some of the things they were talking about in that energy pillar?
So we were talking about power availability, the challenges with utilities and the growth and our aging digital infrastructure, or utility infrastructure, I should say, for the grid, how we partner better with those utility providers to really address what's coming in the future, better planning. We talked about efficiency, different clean energy resources. So many things. So many things.
This was day one.
Day one.
I mean, we really were just developing what that agenda looked like. And tomorrow we're going to go and talk about the strategy to launch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is going to be super fun. I can't wait to hear more about that. And now I understand that you're going above and beyond just where you work at Equinix and the sustainability report. And you've grown it into this thing. And co-founded, of course. There's always other people involved, but you're here and representing that. You're at this Climate Accord. You're having these conversations. But Patty, you're partnering with ASU right now.
Yeah, so it was really cool. I had a chance to meet with the dean of the School of Sustainability at ASU, and it came up that they have capstone projects that they're working on for the School of Sustainability's master's program. And I was able to submit a capstone project and work with a cohort of master students this fall, unexpectedly at the last minute. And it was really exciting.
That is incredible. And you know what? I think that really shows, and I've talked about it a little bit today, just scraping the surface really. But I think this is proof that this is something Gen Z really cares a lot about. I mean, they're looking for companies that take this very seriously on the forefront. And I think that's a beautiful thing that you're going in there and you're creating that capstone. And, that's, for me, that's what Hands on Heroes is all about, is really going out and planting the seeds with the generation of tomorrow, right? Because it's going to take the folks who are running it today to share that. You plant those seeds, they're going to take that torch from you from one day. And for me, I'm just like, even if it's planting a seed for a tree of the shade I'll never sit in, I think that's okay. Because
at a very basic level, yes.
At a very basic level, I think that's how you live forever. That's how you leave a legacy.
It's exactly that. Yeah.
Is you're really planting and supporting and sharing that knowledge. So the folks coming behind you don't have the learning curve. They don't go and recreate the wheel. And oh, by the way, let me tell you what worked and didn't work. When the changeover happens, you're not going to be around forever. I'm not going to be around forever. By the time they get in, we're going to be retiring.
I sure hope so. But No offense, but I do want to add a different perspective to that because we're tapping into master's students and also getting a fresh perspective from them with regards to what we're doing and what they believe we should be doing, right? So I know what my answers are. I know what, my colleagues are probably going to say or want to recommend. But I'd love to hear this new generation that's going to be taking the torch and get their perspectives and ideas. And then what I want to do with these capstone, results is to bring it back into the industry and to really share and continue to grow in that way. And, we're never going to grow if we only keep thinking and doing the same thing.
Yeah. So I think about that because when I thought about, I brought interns in and I tell them all the time, I mean, that's such a great point you brought up because I tell interns, I've said, there's a 20, 30-year-old construction workers in the field. You've got over 10 decades of sustainability experience. We have been looking at the same things for years and years and years. And sometimes it creates these blinders, right? We think that we've seen it all, right? We have the same answers for the same things, but they come in with those fresh eyes and they go, well, why do you do it that way? And then you're like, I don't know why I do it that way. Well, have you thought of this? And those fresh perspectives are so important. And not to mention the things that they're learning in school is really going to be the things that launch us into that next phase and that next future. I mean, I remember when I was in college, I was working on BIM and BIM wasn't a big deal. But next thing I knew, I was in my job and someone was like, does anybody know how to fly a model? I'm like, I do, but see how useful and how quickly our young and our youth can get plugged in because you are the future of what sustainability is going to look like, what our technology is going to look like. And if we're not engaging with them and sharing our knowledge and then getting that fresh perspective, it's called the continuous improvement. I mean, that's in definition right there.
And if industry isn't partnering with schools to share the innovation, then they're not going to have innovation to teach, right? So it's part of our responsibility as industry leaders to really bring in, our thought leadership, share the different innovations, provide the opportunities to play with and test that technology and move the needle forward.
I love that. Well, this has been a really fun technical conversation as always. Love talking about sustainability. Love that it's no longer this tree hugging conversation. It really is what we need because frankly, our communities have demanded it.
100%.
Right? And so I'd love to end with a really fun question because I love to let people just kind of get to know folks a little bit more. And in our industry, we work fast paced. We need to have a little fun. So let's have a little fun. And my question for Patty is, what song would you sing at karaoke?
I only get to pick one.
I know.
That's like my thing. I love it. I love karaoke. It is like my heart and soul. Like put a microphone up in front of me and music and I'm up there singing. But
okay, out of the set of songs, what's the first one you're gonna sing?
How about Dreams, Fleetwood Mac?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I love that. Oh man, I think for me, let's see, probably a little Stevie Nicks.
I love it. So we're gonna have to karaoke night soon?
100%.
Perfect.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Patty, for being on Hands on Heroes and sharing a little of your technical knowledge, having a little fun with me. And I can't wait to see what happens next in sustainability. Thank you for having me.
This episode is powered by Mod 42, the modular data center company redefining speed to market. From design to delivery, Mod 42 brings precision manufacturing, quality assurance, and trusted execution to every build. When reliability can't wait, Mod 42 delivers. Learn more at mod42.com. Okay, welcome to the Hands on Heroes podcast. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. I'm here with Amir. Amir, we're at the very first face-to-face Climate Accord Summit. And have you First, as I sit here and I start asking questions, we should probably introduce you first. Let's talk about who you are and what is your role. And I understand you're a civil engineer.
Yeah. So my name is Amir Ehsaei. I'm a civil engineer by trade. I've been doing different flavors of sustainability work over the last 15 or 16 years. Former Amazon Web Services, now run my own independent consulting business. I came to this summit through the iMasons Climate Accord, where I'm a participant in the materials working group, and I have been for the last 2 years. This is a great gathering of the first time I'm seeing a lot of people in person. Yeah, really excited to be here.
Yeah, so the event was sold out, but that wasn't what Miranda was most excited about. What she was most excited about was the fact that she had all of these different companies, all of this entire ecosystem together here, having a conversation, putting plans together. How is it going to be scalable and really moving the needle? Did you feel like it accomplished that?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of great energy. I think the combination of the companies that are represented here represents the bulk of the built environment in terms of the hyperscaler, in terms of all the things that we see and hear in the news, the data center, AI. This is the place to be. This is the place where all those companies are represented, and all the people who get to choose and have their thumb on the needle and the skill in terms of whether those developments happen sustainably or just like any other regular project. This is the place to be, to have that influence, learn what others are doing, and help to influence how things need to be moving forward.
That is such a beautiful thing. So much happens when you get face to face, right?
And there's some energy to it. There's connection, there's partnership. I just love the vision and all of that comes together. So we've talked a lot about sort of what this event means and what we've accomplished today. Let's talk a little bit about you and how long, you're a civil engineer, you just said you were a consultant. How long have you been in the data center industry specifically? 2 or 3 years. I started to get familiar with the data center business. What I've always done is that data centers are big boxy buildings like any other type of building. They're simpler in a lot of ways because we don't put humans inside, we put computers inside. And it turns out computers don't have feelings, not just yes. so it's easier to deal with data centers in that sense because the temperature tolerances are different. There doesn't need to be lights everywhere. You can set a computer on fire and generally be okay. There's no loss of human productivity and things like that. And so that's what makes a data center very unique. Interesting. That's actually a really interesting perspective on it, is the lack of human in the data center space. But surprisingly, every time a data center is built, it really brings quite a few jobs. I think I heard the last number is 10,000 indirect jobs every time a data center is built. This because of the operations and maintenance that's required for a data center.
Yeah. So one way to calibrate and understand what a data center development project means is a fully fitted out with the equipment inside. A data center costs about $1 billion.
Amazing.
So think about it for a minute. That's construction work, that's prep, that's surveying, that's all the county work that needs to be participating in the permitting process, the energy bringing on site, the water treatment, all the actual operation and maintenance, all the people that come for those activities need a place to sleep, need food to eat. That's sort of the best way to make this more feelable and more malleable for people. Like, sure, there was a gold rush in California. That's where we are now. But gold rush had people that needed meals, haircuts, jeans. That's how Levi's was born. That's how a lot of the people made their name. That's how they participated and helped the cause. Data center businesses are, and the development of data centers are the next gold rush. And so there's a lot of work that goes around to support the people who are making that available and making it possible. That's the next thing. That's the next gold rush for us.
100%. So, we've been calling it, especially recently, we've watched the scale of a data center increase astronomically in the last 5 years. I can remember 5 years ago, 36 megawatts was a lot. Then next thing you know, it was 100. Then, I felt like we skipped right to 5 and then 500 and then right to a gigawatt. And when we say a gigawatt, for those who are watching this, that's 1,000 megawatts. That's a lot of power in one place. That's a lot of data storage in one place. And we can't live in our society today without it. I mean, it's really now a standard utility that we need. And where there's a gold rush, there's the potential of ghost towns, of the modern day ghost towns. So if we don't develop, we don't come together and partner in our communities, we don't educate correctly, we don't partner with the politics, and the politicians don't go self-educate and understand rather than blocking us, the companies are going to leave, the jobs are going to leave, and the people are going to follow. Now, what are you seeing in this industry, though, that's a risk really for not accepting data centers, and outside of the fact that, we can't build the power fast enough, but I think community education and outreach is probably one of our biggest hurdles right now.
Yeah. I mean, you're touching on a lot of really good points. I think with availability of power, you get attractions, you get interest from data center developers, because let's say Los Angeles, where we are today, has abundance of power because of the because of the sunshine, because of the grid in California. If that attracts data center developers, and that with that comes construction jobs, sure, those construction jobs are going to leave once the data center is built. But the data center businesses come to those locations because there is a set of metrics. There's good water, there's high-paying jobs within the data center once it's fully built. So those jobs, sure, will leave the campus that you're talking about now, only to move to the next door campus, only move to down the block, on the street, to the next town over, where those same resources will be utilized for the next data center, for the next development, for the next building that's going to go up.
And those are expertise, right? Even if they were new and that was their first one, those are expertise that the world of data center, especially when it comes to construction, we like to hold on to, because there's a bit of a learning curve that goes into this. There's a lot of sensitivity. Speed is king right now. How fast can we build it? How fast can we get the power? How fast can we get the right quality of water? And so speed is king. And if we sometimes there's just genuinely not enough people to go around to do that. So you've seen new people entering into this industry that have never been in this industry before. And so when you said, 2 or 3 years, that's pretty common now. It's pretty common to hear someone, I've been in this industry for less than 5. And that's because that's how huge the growth is. That's how huge the demand is. You're seeing people pivot, transferable skills, changing careers in their late 30s to, come in to become data center operators, right? Cybersecurity, IT, and control SOC rooms and NOC rooms, right? This is the future. And when you think about, AI taking your job, you just got to look around you and say, yeah, AI is not going away. But there's so much demand for opportunity that AI is driving. I mean, once upon a time, agriculture was the number one job in America, but then technology took over, right? And now a farmer can run the entire farm by himself with that new technology. They use drones half the time and getting rid of some of the bigger equipment. And so it's kind of a beautiful evolution. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You're touching on a lot of really good points. I think AI is not going to take anyone's job directly, but how it's changing the job market as a whole is that it's shifting resources where a lot of laborious works are going to go away and will be replaced by more specialized types of roles, where you would be able to do more with the resources you have. You'd be able to do more meaningful work, more in-depth kind of work with not as many people helping you out. So that's an actual business enabler. That's something where it grows productivity, it grows output, it grows economic benefits of a particular role, because we'll be able to just do so much more with the resources we have.
That's beautiful. Now, you're a civil engineer and you're a consultant. You own your own business. And what are some of the things that you're addressing on a regular basis these days from a pain point perspective?
Yeah, so what my work is mostly focused on decarbonization of the built environments, the way I think about the world in the West, the way I see the world. If you look around us, everything is made of, every room, every building is made of mostly the top 3 or 4 things: concrete, steel, and a bunch of metals. The work really at hand to address the climate crisis is to decarbonize and lower the carbon intensity of those 3 or 4 things that you see around you in every room, in every setting you are. So it doesn't matter whether you're in a data center, airport, or a concert hall. You still have concrete, you still have steel, you still have a bunch of other metals that like energize the buildings, all the lamps, all the computers. The work that we have and the thing that we need to do in this day and age is to lower the carbon emissions associated with building up those things, the hidden emissions, the scope 3, to allow the growth, to allow the further development of the human race without literally burning the planet down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge, your insights. Get a little technical with me, but I always like to end and have a little fun, because if we can't laugh and have a little fun in this industry, then what are we doing here, right? So I pulled a special question out of the question box here. Your question is, what grade would you give yourself for environmental responsibility?
I would give myself a B.
A B?
Yes. Mainly because I travel a lot. And so I think there's a really good book that I've read and have bought for 4 or 5 of my colleagues and peers and friends. It's a carbon footprint of everything. It's got a banana on the cover. Travel, from an individual perspective, travel is the one biggest source of carbon emissions. And I travel justifiably, I think, at least. You need to get around, so travel is a lot of emissions. Because I travel so much, I give myself a B, not an A. But I try to compensate for it by not driving to the extent possible. I ride my bike to work. I get the light rail or the train to the airport. I know it's, from someone who's a carbon accounting expert, that looks laughable because the carbon emissions of flying a mile versus hundreds of miles on a train are just astronomical differences.
Right.
But yeah, things like that, like cutting out red meat out of my budget, out of my diet, sensible everyday choices that I can maintain and sustain day after day. I try to do those things.
Well, not only did you give us a really great answer, but I think you just educated some of our listeners on how they can go about cutting down carbon footprint, even if you're not in the world of sustainability. So I think we just all learned a little something. And what was the name of that book?
Carbon Footprint of Everything.
Oh, man, that sounds like a good book. I'll have to add that to my reading list. Well, thank you so much, Amir. Really appreciate the time. It was so nice to meet you, and so excited to share some of your knowledge with the world.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks much.
Welcome to Hands On Heroes podcast. Really appreciate you taking the time and joining us today here at the Climate Accord Summit, their very first face-to-face. What do you think about, well, first, before we jump into that, sorry, why don't we introduce you and tell our audience a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Thank you, Valerie, for the opportunity to join the podcast. My name is Leyva. I am a senior sustainability project engineer at Relco, which is a generator manufacturing company. I was born and raised in China. I came here for studying engineering at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and kind of stay in the area. My role at Relco is really working on product side of sustainability and how to find ways to better measure the environmental footprint of our product throughout the life cycle, convening cross-functional team from engineering, marketing, manufacturing to figure out how can we reduce our impacts from the product design and development perspective. In addition to that, I also support Scope 3 accounting, measuring the value chain footprint associated with our product, and support some of the internal sustainability initiative by establishing a sustainability task force, leading a sustainability community to really upskill and educate broader stakeholders across our company. With iMasons Climate Accord, I am equipment working group chair to help facilitating industry collaboration on case study and publication to drive more decarbonization activity for the equipment that go into the data centers.
That's amazing. And a lot that you have your hands in as it relates to sustainability, which is beautiful. Now you kind of brushed over it a little bit.
Yeah.
Born in China. Educated in Wisconsin.
I went to UW-Madison to study mechanical engineering.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think I read someplace engineered in Germany.
You got it right. I did spend 1 year in Germany while I was in college. I actually did the research internship at the Power Electronics Lab in the northern Germany town called University of Osnabrück in Osnabrück. but I also studied abroad in Hochschule München, the Munich University of Life Science, for half a year, and trying to refine my engineering skill and also just to broaden my experiences through my college career.
Yeah. And as an I Am Women leader with iMason, and also People's Champion myself, we have to brag about you a little bit. And I understand that you were the, first of all, sustainability champion and the I Am 100 champion with iMason. That's phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And youngest 40 under 40? Tell us about that.
Yeah, locally, I'm based in Wisconsin-Madison, and locally there's In Business magazine that recognize 40 individuals every year that are under the age of 40, and I was really honored to be able to receive a recognition as an emerging professional that is demonstrating thought leadership in the sustainability space in the construction building environment. But yeah.
That is incredible. Yeah, congratulations. So we're here at the summit. Is this your first engagement being the face-to-face, or were you always a part of the virtuals prior to this?
Yeah, this is definitely the first in-person ICA summit that we get to meet many of our working group ICA members in person. As mentioned before, I have been a part of the equipment working group under ICA for the last 2+ years, and I've been an active member with the group and kind of stepping into the leadership role to be vice chair and then chair of the group this year. It's really nice to be able to be in person and work with many other, brightest minds in the industry that are wanting to solve the challenge, right? As the industry continue to grow and boom, how do you separate the growth of the business versus also the footprint that come with it, and find ways to better measure and reduce the embodied carbon that going into all the materials, equipment, and the power in the data center industry.
That's amazing. Now, this full ecosystem. I mean, there's just a little bit of everybody, and I feel like I'm witnessing an entire value chain come together.
Absolutely.
And have the conversations. What pillars are you mostly working with in this event?
So at the summit, there's a 3 days event, and I am actually co-leading, facilitating 2 of the workshops. So we had a workshop yesterday to essentially bring together, current working group members as well as broader ICA members to help brainstorm what collectively as an industry association should be working on. What are some problem statements that needing collaborative actions, and how can we work that into our roadmap for the next 2 years? So facilitating some conversation around that. Tomorrow, there will also be a workshop for supply chain decarbonization that I will be co-leading with Andrea Desimoni from Schneider Electric, as well as Howard from Meta on how to engage your supply chain to find ways to decarbonize the equipment, starting from measuring the footprint, and how do you go from measurement to actual reduction activities. So we'll share some best practice, but also trying to pick the brains of many other industry stakeholders on how they have been, whether you're an owner-operator engaging with your supplier or you're an equipment supplier, how do you go to your own suppliers to find ways to better understand the footprint of your product and find hotspots to reduce them.
That's amazing. Well, it sounds like it's been a very productive few days.
It has absolutely been to be able to be in the beautiful Santa Monica area, but also collaborating with a lot of really passionate people who have been working on this for quite some time, and really help setting the industry trend on what is the next priority that we should look at collectively.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. Well, thank you for all your contributions, and clearly your awards are well earned for sure. And you're out here just giving a piece of yourself above and beyond your day job, which I think is remarkable. And so really appreciate that. Really appreciate you coming in and having a few minutes with me. But I don't want to let you lose so quickly here.
Yep.
We want to learn a little something new that maybe nobody else knows. And I've been asking everyone some fun questions.
Yep.
We got to have fun, right?
Yep.
And my question for you is, what skill do you possess that most people don't know about?
Here's a fun fact that I play music. I enjoy music. I play piano in my free time. But the fun fact is I actually joined the University of Wisconsin marching band when I was in college as a trumpet player without knowing how to play trumpet.
What?
So I literally pick up on learning an instrument, getting on the marching steps and style so that I can immerse myself in the football culture when I came as an international student and was able to make the band, play for 5 years, and actually was one of the very first international students ever join the University of Wisconsin marching band. So that's a fun fact.
Wow. Well, you know what? I think not only a fun fact, but quite inspiring, actually.
Thank you.
For someone to just say, hey, this is new. I've never done it. When in Rome, I want to immerse myself in this environment and be a part of the, university at the time's culture. But, you see that playing out for you as you move into your professional career too.
Mm-hmm.
That is you stepping out and here at the summit, doing the exact same thing is really kind of, hey, I'm going to lead this team. And although I might be one of the youngest people in the room, I'm going to bring us together and emerge into all of this and help drive this needle forward. And I just think that says a lot about you.
Yeah, thank you. There's definitely a lesson learned. Just to add to what you're saying, I think one of the reasons that I was able to make the band in that example is because I don't know how competitive the environment is. I don't know how there's so many high school students who have been, playing in the band and marching for many years and trying to get in, couldn't, and oftentimes they stop themselves from trying so because of they see that as a challenging, and they don't necessarily see themselves being able to make it. But because I don't know, because of the unaware of the challenge, also sometimes make you more courageous. That feel like, oh, I can give it a try. The worst case is they're gonna say no.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of lesson I feel like we should carry forward in the work that we're doing today. We are stepping into an uncharted territory where our industry is doubling itself in 2 years and going to grow another 2 to 3 times in the next 5 years.
That's right.
Nobody knows how we're going to solve the climate challenge, the decarbonization challenge with the solution we have today. But we have to keep trying. We have to aim for the moonshot and trying to figure out what are the things that we can control, we can do individually, what are the things that we should collaborate with our competitors and other industry players to push the boundary. I think that's really the beauty of the iMasons Climate Accord, to bring together the right people in the right room. And we just need to have the courage, as we heard in today's opening keynote presentation, have the courage, have the leadership to really continue to push the boundary forward.
Even if the society around us keeps telling us it doesn't fit, that's not how we're built, but we built it, is what Michael said. We built it so we can dismantle it and rebuild it right.
Yep.
And I think it's going to take people like you being very courageous and stepping out and being willing to sort of blaze a trail forward and show us how that's done. And just really inspired by you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share. I hope anybody listening in is also inspired. And if you're a future generation, especially those Gen Zs, I know it's really important to them to be looking for people and examples of what good looks like. There you go.
Thank you so much, Valerie. And I just want to add another word to kudos to what you are doing. I think it's really important to break that layer of unknown of what actually going into a data center. There are a lot of really young, bright minds. People wanted to make a change, and this is an opportunity to do it, right? As the industry growing so fast, we need more talented people. We need people like yourself listening and watching to see yourself in a position. There's no one size fits all. What is the best role or best position you can be? Every job can be a sustainability job if you find an angle to approach it. So really appreciate you helping to educate and sharing the stories of who are actually working in this space and what can future young talents do to be in this space.
Imagine it and dream it on what could be. 100%.
Yep.
Yes. Well, thanks so much again for taking some time with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Welcome to Hands on Heroes, and I really appreciate you being on the show with me today. I know we're going to talk about some really wonderful things around water and sustainability and being water positive. Before we jump into all of that, please introduce yourself to the audience and let us know sort of how you got into this industry.
Well, thanks, Valerie, and I'm really excited to be here and actually very impressed with the podcast that you're doing and your commitment to getting people educated, not only within the industry, but also to the books that you've been writing for children to let them know that they've got opportunities just wide open in terms of what they could do with their talents and their interests.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the mission, planting those seeds of tomorrow with Gen Alpha while highlighting folks like you and what we're doing in opportunities in the future today. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm a big believer in pursuing one's dreams and being creative. Most of my career has been in sustainability.
Oh, wow.
And I've spent about a third of it in government and about 2/3 of it in business at executive levels, mostly focused on environmental protection, sustainability, climate change, before it was popular, or now when it's, people are criticizing approaches and whether it's real or not. I am currently the principal for Net Zero Solutions, which is a consulting firm assisting companies in the hyperscale and developer space with developing stable and sustainable approaches to their environmental performance.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's critical just given the scale which data center and digital infrastructure is building. I know you've been active in that space. I've been active in data center and tech for about 15 years or so, providing services all the way from being a client account manager to Google when I was at AECOM.
Oh, wow.
To running, of all things, a security company for the founders of a technology company, their family offices, and some of their unique operations. And unfortunately, that's all confidential, so I really can't talk much about
No,
that.
that's okay.
But the last few years I've been back in sustainability. I'm happy to be there. And the reason I'm happy to be there is actually I've got quite a strong passion when it comes to sustainability. I started my career as a park ranger in Yosemite.
Really? That's
Yes.
so interesting. What
Yes.
a fun fact. Okay.
Yeah, did that for a few years and got frustrated with people coming to the park. I did two things in Yosemite. I was what was called an interpretive ranger, where you educated people, and then on the flip side, I do search and rescue. So I saw the best in people, and sometimes I saw the worst in people. But most importantly, the thing that really had an impact for me there, other than just being in the heart of nature, was I kept getting asked the question, why are the trees dying? Why can't you as a ranger do something about protecting the trees? And at the same time, too, I was climbing. I've done a lot of high altitude mountaineering, climbing in the Sierras. And all the glaciers that I was climbing on as a teenager and in my 20s were starting to melt in my 30s and 40s and 50s. I've gone up there and those glaciers have disappeared.
Oh, my gosh.
And that is something that really impassioned me to try to do something. So I decided to go back to grad school, went to USC, got a graduate degree, and then went to Washington, D.C. to try to change the world.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. I don't know if I was that successful in changing the world, but it certainly was something where I went on a path towards approaching sustainability from both a government policy standpoint, and then when my party was out of office, I would be in the private sector working with companies to try to reduce their carbon impacts and try to work on more sustainable solutions on the operational side and on the product side.
That's really incredible. Wow, what a great story. Just learned so many really fun facts. I've actually read a book about the wolves in Yosemite.
Oh, okay.
Or was it Yellowstone? Maybe it was in Yellowstone.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They're not yet in Yosemite, though. They're making their way south, and we'll probably see them there in the next few years.
And how just a little tweak in the ecosystem really impacted the entire environment.
Yes.
And so I guess if we're talking Yosemite or Yellowstone, it wouldn't matter. It was just the point of just one species disappearing.
Yes.
And how that just destroyed the entire environment. And as soon as they brought them back, it changed everything. Yes. And it's such a beautiful story, but it's almost like you can't believe it, but it's a true story. It's really a cool story. And then just listening to you about those glaciers, I'd taken my kids camping, and over the summer, I'm in Arizona, so we go north to get, cool down, go camping, get out in nature.
That's fantastic. It's great you're doing that for them.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun, except for all of our lakes have dried up.
Yes.
They were like, oh, you can go to this lake. And I kept going to all the closest lakes. We kept driving a little further. And like, where is all the water? Where's all the water? I just was shocked. And here we wanted to kayak and go fishing and do all the things we love doing. And the lakes are just gone or so low. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. So the drought is real.
in that regard. So, when we think about climate, it goes beyond just being a tree hugging person. I genuinely believe that. I think it goes back to what you just said in your own personal experience. I've personally watched this climate change. I'm not just saying climate change from a policy or government or a tree hugging perspective. I'm saying I used to climb that mountain and this glacier, and it's not there anymore. And then you have to ask your question, well, why? And why? you can't deny why.
You can't, though. There's a great deal of debate about why.
Okay.
And I've gone from doing studies in college, reading about studies on projections of climate change, to actually witnessing those changes actually having more quickly than anybody anticipated. I also think we're seeing some chain reactions where we may be at a tipping point in some respects in terms of ocean currents, the jet stream, and changing global weather patterns that could have a huge impact on water supply. And I've actually spent most of my career trying to prevent climate change through reducing embodied carbon, through reducing emissions of greenhouse gases. And now one of the areas that I'm beginning to focus on is the water. Because as we heard from one of the panelists earlier, water is a fundamental need for human life. First is air, then water, and then warmth or energy. And looking at what the global environment projections are for water availability and water supply, we've got a number of areas that are lacking in water. We've also got a huge challenge in potable water. I mean, there is a lot of water out there, but most of it is
the
not
quality
drinkable.
is not there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on top of it as well, too, the amount of upgrades that are needed to improve water supply, make it drinkable, make it available, according to the World Bank, is a $7 trillion investment that is required. And that's between now and 2050. And that's equates to almost $100 million a year of investment that's needed. And at the same time, we've got population growing. We have weather patterns changing.
More extreme than ever.
More extreme than ever. And
more
I call
hurricanes, more tornadoes on record.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And I really people call it, climate change or global warming. I call it global weirding. And that's one of the things.
We'll just coin that right now.
Yeah.
Allan's global weirding.
Yeah, global weirding. No, I'm not the originator of that name, but I definitely will, own that label.
Yeah.
But, you're in risk management. And increasingly we're seeing, when I say we, sort of the global industry and experts in this field are seeing a great deal of unpredictability. And in fact, where we're seeing that equate out in this industry and a lot of others is insurance rates skyrocketing.
Oh.
When I used to manage all the regulatory programs in the state of Florida, and I was there during 2004, 2005, which was a historic hurricane season. There were about 7 storms that came through in 2 years. And that impact, that devastation was on such a scale, not only once, but several times. And as soon as we built things back, it got knocked down again. That type of unpredictability, I think we're going to see more and more of. Not necessarily hurricanes in Florida, but just disasters from the form of fires.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing more fires.
Yes. Hurricanes.
More extreme
yes.
versions of them.
Yes. And I think, from a resiliency standpoint, the industry really needs to think about not only what can they do right now to maintain their operations, but also hedge against an uncertain future.
Yeah.
And that has to do a lot with water. And part of this is also water supply, not only for data centers, but for the watersheds and communities in which they're operating. So one of the things that I've been focused on is working with a group of companies to develop future water supplies, water positive projects that actually are providing more water into the watershed. Yes, and it's something here at iMasons that is a concept that we're beginning to talk about. It's actually a relatively new concept at the scale of which we're trying to address, which is looking to invest in creating high quality water, surplus water, water that's either drinkable or water that can be put back into the environment that can basically recharge watersheds and aquifers.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So how does it work? I mean, how long does it take to mobilize and put something like that infrastructure into place?
It can be a very large challenge, and that's actually something with the companies I'm working with. We're actually marshaling resources to bring an incredible amount of capital to bear through investment. And traditionally, water treatment, I used to regulate wastewater treatment plants in 2 different states, also regulate drinking water supply. That is very capital intensive, and oftentimes that's been up, all that capital investment has basically been up to public agencies.
Wow.
And most public agencies don't have the resources to maintain their infrastructure or grow it. And we're seeing exponential growth just in economic development. Data centers are accused of utilizing a lot of water, but actually, in fact, the environment itself uses a lot of water in terms of the hydrologic cycle and water flows and things like that. And then agriculture is sort of the second biggest user globally. And then there's everybody else, which includes data centers, food processing, you name it. And at the same time, that demand is increasing because of economic development. And the challenge is that public agencies, whether they're here in the US or overseas, usually it's a government program that funds that water supply or that wastewater treatment. And they're just outstripped in terms of the ability to actually upgrade or keep up with demand. And that's what we're hearing here at the conference today at iMasons.
And that's incredible. So if somebody wanted to connect with you and bring you in as an expert around water to actually drive toward an improved efficiency, I mean, what does that initial engagement look like?
There are a variety of different ways that companies can manage water, all the way from efficiency and optimization, and we're certainly seeing that technologically. The challenge is, even with new advanced cooling technologies that may not use as much water, the sheer growth in demand and utilization of data centers is still going to be climbing like this, even though water efficiency and effectiveness is dropping. So from a net sort of use basis, we're going to see demand hugely increase. There are some studies out there, and there's actually a number of studies that look at high, medium, low scenarios in terms of increased water demand for data center use alone. And the numbers, whether you agree with them or not, they're all generally pretty significant.
Right.
And I don't want to talk about the specific numbers just because
there's so many variables too.
There's so many variables,
right.
Yes. And it depends on,
where
growth
you are,
scenarios,
yep.
technology, and everything. Yep. The challenge is that a lot of the data centers are now going into water-constrained areas. Yes. They're also going into communities that may be water-constrained because of the growth in those communities or traditional use. So what I'm doing is I'm working with a group of companies that have developed an investment vehicle for private investment to invest in building water infrastructure for supply and also restoration.
Amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible because up to this point, there really hasn't been an effort to put private investment at the scale that we're talking about in terms of billions of dollars of investment into providing water, not only to offset the impact of data centers or food or beverage processing or agriculture, but it's something that's desperately needed when you look at future demand for communities and watersheds around the world.
I mean, and you're right. I mean, I've personally been on those data center projects where I've had the water trucked in.
Yes.
And it just because there wasn't enough water there, or the water that was there, the quality was so terrible, we had to build a water treatment plant on the site.
Yes.
And take up really valuable land to do so, just to bring quality water to that data center.
Yes.
I mean, we're all coming together today to kind of have these conversations. Data centers, they're coming up with creative ways to support the water that they're doing with closed loop systems, right, and some liquid cooling as well coming into play there as well. So, I mean, there are some
alternatives, but that can't be the solution everywhere all the time. Sometimes you just need to have that consultant that can come in and say, okay, here's how we're going to get you there. Right. And here's the capital to help you get you there. Yes. Because it's important.
Yes, exactly. And for a data center, you look at a project and there might be a wastewater treatment plant in the watershed that could be upgraded. Right. Depending on the size, that could be anywhere from $50 to $100 million to upgrade a wastewater treatment plant that might be able to provide 50 million gallons a day or 70 million gallons a day. But the data center only needs 7 million gallons a day or even less on an annual basis. So does it make sense to invest that much money for, basically you're paying, $1,000 for, a gallon of water. This is where what I would call fractional investment is working out. And so the group that I'm working with, which is basically backed by Shell and Saudi Aramco, and has very strong interest from two very large global financial firms. What they're doing is they are planning to invest in these projects to retrofit full wastewater treatment plant or industrial wastewater treatment plant, or optimize a agricultural operation, or do restoration within a watershed. And they would basically invest the majority share and then look for a portion, a share by whoever would like to offtake some of that water, and actually what we would expect to see happen is see that water contributed to the watershed. It may not go directly to that project, but it's offsetting their use within the watershed. So it's literally, truly a water offset. And the closest analogy is like a carbon offset, right, where you're reducing here in order to cover emissions over here.
Right.
The only thing that's different here is that that's a global solution. In this case, the water offset would basically be associated either with a large watershed in which a company's operating and wants to reduce their impact, or they want to basically offset their use in a different watershed that is within their operations, basically to contribute to the overall global hydrologic cycle.
Right. Because sometimes I think I was looking at a site not that long ago, and they said the demand for water in that area for what was needing to be built doubled the current demand for the entire community.
Yes.
And that freaked them out a little bit.
Yes.
And but here we are, when you're thinking about you're going in these spaces, you got all this infrastructure you've got to upgrade. And to get them there, and there's a time. So not only are we thinking about how are we getting power there, and is power even existing, but can I get to the water, and is the pressure there, is the quality there, is the quantity there?
Yes.
And a lot of times that local utility is a little nerve-wracked. So do you partner with some of those local utilities to kind of bring this to?
Yeah, well, what happened there is that the investment we made in a water utility, and again, there's a lot of different types of ways we can create water positive resources. It can basically be through a water utility, through either supply generation from a wastewater treatment plant that generates clean water, or it could be through a desal plant, or it could be through some form of conservation, avoided water consumption. Those are all on the table, and those are all projects that this group of companies has identified throughout the U.S. and globally, potentially to create offsets. With that said, for example, your example of wastewater treatment plant, this group would come in and basically pay for the entire upgrade of the system. For example, I'll talk about a project. I can't say where it is because it hasn't been announced yet. But it's a project where a wastewater treatment plant for the 1920s is going to be retrofitted and provide over 7 million gallons per day of clean water to an area in the U.S. That has data center development going on in it. And in addition, there'd be another 8 to 10x worth of water that would also be treated and returned to the river. So that project would actually finance not only water supply and water offsets for the project upstream the data center campuses, but then also for the first time since 1920, there'd be cleaner water going into the river and providing that supply. And that would all be privately financed by these investment companies. And then also, too, there'd be water certificates that would be generated that a company could buy for how much water they want to offset. So instead of spending $100 million to, basically create 100 million gallons per day of water, you're basically only paying for whatever you would withdraw, 1 million gallons per day, that type of thing.
Kind of like the bathtub analogy they gave earlier, where if you're trying to eliminate the use, that's like pulling the plug on a full tub of water.
Right.
Versus slowing the faucet down and slowing down how fast that tub fills up. So you're creating a reduction versus a full elimination.
Think of a bathtub. Okay, you've got a watershed. That's your watershed. That bathtub full of water. You've got all sorts of people with straws sucking water out of that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm following.
And more people are coming to that. And that's the thing. It's not just data centers. It's communities. It's businesses. It's ag. They're all sticking water, there's straws in there sucking away.
Yep.
It's emblematic of what a watershed is like. Okay. And you basically have these giant basins. Some of them are multi-state wide, like, for example, the upper Colorado River Basin, or when you look at the Himalayan watershed, going through India or into China and Mongolia. So these can be very large watersheds. For example, California, you could almost treat as an entire watershed if you look at, western slope of the Sierra. So throughout the United States and globally, you've got these watersheds, these bathtubs, and you've got all sorts of people sticking their straws in there to basically suck the water out. It could be agricultural operation. It could basically be a city, multiple cities. It could be a data center. It could be a hospital. It could be a food processing plant. It could be a beverage provider, all those things. They're all there with their straws, okay? More of them are coming to the bathtub, more and more. And the bathtub is going down because of that drawdown, but also, too, the spigot, basically, the global hydrologic cycle is slowing down in some respects. You're turning down that spigot, so there's less flow coming in. So what we're doing is we are basically, through this group of companies, through investment, we are actually trying to bring more supply to that bathtub. So we're putting a line in the water to actually feed water in there.
Interesting.
And the critical thing here is, if you're going to take out water, for your straw, you don't want to pay for everybody else's straw. You want to pay for your straw. So we have investment and investors that are willing to invest in that larger water flow.
Got that.
And here's a critical thing. In the past, it's been very hard to measure how much water is being used, where it's going. And this has been a challenge with carbon offsets. We talked about that earlier. And I actually worked on Wall Street, worked for Cantor Fitzgerald, bought and sold carbon credits, renewable energy credits. And the problem there with offsets up until today is that it's very hard to verify them.
Yeah.
One of the companies that is part of this partnership has actually developed digital quality assurance technology that's been used in the upstream, downstream energy industry. Was developed during the Deepwater Horizon crisis. This technology's and this company's been spun out from Shell, Cumulus Digital. And they have developed this technology that is actually now being used to assure compliance and construction assurance for things all the way from bolts to electrical connections to basically completion of projects. That same AI-driven monitoring technology is now being applied to water and carbon. So for the first time, we actually have discrete deterministic measurement. Okay. So what that has led to is not only financial companies saying, we want to invest because we now have a guarantee of the water that's being produced, the water that's being saved, but also, very importantly, these offsets are insured. First time ever that offsets are insured by the financial industry, which hugely reduces the risk of companies that are using offsets to offset their impact or to restore watersheds where there may be water that's being withdrawn that they want to basically be water positive about.
Right.
Revolutionary.
Very revolutionary, and should be quite comforting to hear from a community perspective who is concerned as these data centers move into their communities. Yes. And they think they're going to eat up all of their resources. And you've got the utility people saying, hey, this is double what we would normally do.
Right.
Yes. This is positive
yes.
For them. So you can say, hey, listen, we're not just taking water. We're actually creating this water positive situation.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's a win-win.
It is. It is a win-win.
It's a win-win. We're bringing you a utility you can't live without. Data storage and internet.
Right.
and in return, we are going to use some of those resources, but we are going to do it in a sustainable way. And I think it's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and I think the way to think about it is, you've got a lot of people with that bathtub sipping straws. They're very anxious that there's going to still be water there for them. So we're bringing more water in. And the nice thing is, like, if you're in a community, you're concerned about not only data centers, but just anything, any type of development, growth of homes and cities and things like that. You want to make sure that you've got effective supply for the future. And you also want to make sure your rates stabilize. So this private investment allows you not only to have an assurance that you've got water in your watershed,
right,
but you also are going to not see rate impacts because of this private investment.
Incredible. Well, I love this story. It's a really positive story, pun intended. And I just want to segue a little bit now, because we are at Climate Accord. This is the first time everyone has met face to face.
Yes.
I love that you're here talking about the water, talking about the future of sustainability. What do you think about this event? And do you think we're moving the needle coming together here?
That's a great question. Yes, absolutely. I've been very impressed with iMasons Climate Accord, bringing people together, but not only bringing people together to talk, but to share success stories and to also work on some of your problems. The iMasons Climate Accord has 3 working groups, materials, decarbonizing materials, decarbonizing equipment, all the way from MEPS to IT, and then also decarbonizing, reducing the carbon impact of power. And just this session, for the first time ever, there's now a water working group, which I'm participating in along with some hyperscalers and some of the experts in this space.
Fantastic. And
it's focused on dealing with this very issue of assuring water supply, not only for data centers, but for the communities and watersheds in which they're operating in. And that's a great example where ICA, in the iMasons Climate Accord, is evolving their approach to meet the needs that the industry and the global community sees.
Yeah, 100%. How are those conversations actually going?
Very productive. In fact, it was, I was on the water supply group, and it was a very collaborative discussion, and it was very oriented towards solutions.
Alison.
And really looking at data too. And I know you're a data person.
I am a very big data nerd.
Yeah, and that's the critical thing is there's a perception out there that data centers are impacting resources globally. And when you actually look at the data is actually that they're a very small percent of overall resource consumption.
Yeah.
And especially with some of the AI technology, they're going to be a solution. I actually believe that we are going to be able to come up and develop very effective solutions for climate change as a result of AI, all the way from energy innovation to further efficiency in water and cooling and things like that. But what I saw there was a commitment behind closed doors to do the right thing, which is exactly what they're talking about and doing publicly. And to see that alignment and to see that collaboration with a variety of different experts is really inspiring.
It is really inspiring. And I love that you're leading this conversation and being a part of a, not water less, because we're still going to have water less, but being water positive.
Yes.
And coming up with those solutions. And I just think this is a really great time, because we've been talking very technical, and I love to segue a little bit and have a little fun. So thank you so much for sharing all of those insights.
And it's been really interesting to listen to people who come in who are part of that material group, part of that power group, and now we've got the water perspective synced in. It really goes to show you that we are touching the entire ecosystem in the conversations here, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But now we're going to have a little fun, and I have a fun question for you. I've been asking everybody their own question, so no one's had this one yet. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. First, the question is, in a war between superheroes, who would win?
Well, as a comic book nerd, I can tell you it depends. But I would say, and you have to pick your superheroes.
Right.
And there's a zillion of them. My favorite growing up was Superman and Batman, old standbys.
Superman and Batman.
Yeah, though Iron Man came up pretty close just because he was kind of robotic and I was really into robots and a total sci-fi nerd. I would actually say Superman would win because he's from another planet.
Because he's from another planet.
Yes. Sort of like us in data center industry. We're all sort of nerds and very creative, energetic people. And it's that outside sort of unconventional thinking. It's almost like coming from another planet because we're thinking outside the box.
All the time.
Yes. And that type of approach, whether we're from, Krypton or from the planet here, that type of different perspective, I think, is going to save the day. And certainly that's why my money's on Superman and also on the industry to save the day when it comes to sustainability. I think I really do believe in the digital infrastructure industry really providing solutions for us going forward.
I think you did a great spin on that. I like that.
Thank you.
Nicely played. Nicely played.
Marvel, I'm ready to sign up for my own superhero.
Well, thank you so much, Allan, for taking the time with me, going and talking on Hands on Heroes. It's a huge mission of mine to raise awareness of the things we're trying to educate the community, the opportunities, and the people working on it, educations and internships. So just bringing these people together into one big conversation around sustainability just warms my heart more than anything. And I hope anybody who's listening, I hope you learned a little bit of something about water and what we're doing about, when we're coming into your community is that we're not just there to take. We're coming in and thinking about solutions on how we can give back and create those win-win situations. So
well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Well, welcome to Hands on Heroes podcast. Thanks so much. We're here with Eric Gertsman, who has taken the time from Salesforce to be on the podcast with me today here at the very first face-to-face Climate Accord Summit.
So excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Tell the audience a little bit about you.
My name is Eric Gertsman, and I work to help Salesforce decarbonize its data center infrastructure. So I think a lot about our on-prem data centers, the ones we manage, as well as the ones that we're a little less closer to our operations, but ones that house a lot of our capacity. We deliver a lot of products to our customers and require a vast data center network. But we want to manage them in a responsible way. We want to think about not only carbon and energy, but water, waste, and a variety of other impacts that we have.
Yeah. And I love all of that. So we had a keynote today, and they were talking about what good looked like, right? And being courageous. Mm-hmm. And Salesforce happened to be the example that was brought up as a company who's being courageous and holding people accountable for being more sustainable. Tell us a little bit about this policy.
Yeah, it was very nice to get a shout out from Michael there. Salesforce is definitely trying to lead the industry forward, and we have definitely put in a variety of mechanisms to not only affect our operations, but also others in the industry and our supply chain, the people who are upstream and downstream from us, the customers, as well as all the suppliers, the data center providers, the MEP makers, the digital infrastructure, server manufacturers, everything.
All of them,
we cannot do what we need to do. We cannot decarbonize our footprint without partnership all the way up the chain. And one of the things we did, which was mentioned today, is put a sustainability exhibit together, which is in our contract. There was a little addendum at the end that says, if you want to do business with us, you will also be delivering carbon neutral products and services to us through this contract.
Amazing.
Which is not common necessarily in the industry. And it's definitely bold and ambitious to do that. And maybe early on it ruffled some feathers, but it was brave and bold. And I think at the end of the day, people got on board. We used our purchasing power and our clout to sort of move the needle, which I think is great.
Oh man, I think it's a beautiful story. I really wanted to highlight that because you went into quite a bit more detail than Michael did, but I really felt like, wow, what if you talk about being courageous and when you're trying to kind of think about sustainability, for so long we've looked at it as this tree hugging thing, but it's really not. And especially if you want to hire the future generation like Gen Z, they're paying close attention to what companies who are taking this very seriously and integrating it into everything they do. And Salesforce is certainly a great example of that.
Right. I got into this industry because I kind of didn't want to look from the outside in. I wanted to change the world from the inside out. And business is one of those places that the kids of today and the adults of tomorrow, I think, should look at, because it is there's a lot of ways to affect sustainability, but the business world, you can have a lot of impact and a lot of change, more than maybe even other organizations that are specifically focused and think about and breathe sustainability on a daily basis. And sometimes you have to sort of marry sustainability objectives with other business benefits. And so that's an interesting thing. It's a tip to people coming in this industry, is to really think about how you can dovetail sustainability with business priorities, cost savings and risk reduction and your brand and sales and marketing and retention and recruiting opportunities, a whole bunch of things. So
Salesforce is a software. Tell everybody a little bit of what Salesforce, in case they don't know, if they've never heard of Salesforce before and you're listening in. I want to make sure that we share what is Salesforce and who are they?
Salesforce at its heart is a customer relationship management or CRM company where we provide software to help companies manage how they touch their customers. And so, whether it's sales opportunities or service, opportunities, there is a core of how you track your interactions with customers. So when you follow up with them and if it's a hot or cold lead, things like that. And there's a lot of tools around that. But over the last 25 years plus, we've expanded. We've purchased companies, we've developed internally, but we have marketing engines now and commerce. We bought Slack and Tableau.
Wow.
So there's a variety of sort of ancillary things too, but it's important because companies have their customers and they have all these ways they want to touch them and interact with them. And Salesforce is trying to be more of that for all those touch points, provide the software and the tools in order to enable that.
So huge fan of Tableau. What a great tool to create storyboards and bring your analytics into a single space and in 5 seconds be able to tell a story.
Yes.
And connecting that back to a Salesforce that's tracking your customers, where they are, making sure you're really staying on top of what's most important to them, and then tracking the trends associated with that back into a Tableau storyboard. I think that's a beautiful connection there. What was the other one? I just missed it.
Slack. Which is, communications and chat and other enablement.
Okay. Got it.
I think that storytelling is a huge part of sustainability. And data storytelling is a underappreciated and sometimes overlooked
100%.
part. So yes, the tool Tableau is wonderful. It helps you visualize data in lots of different ways, which allows users, decision makers, to see things in ways they may not have ever seen before, and facilitates sort of certain programs and projects and initiatives and priorities. But it could happen a lot of ways, right? I mean, I think visualizations are important, but they're telling the story and creating the imperative, and again, marrying business objectives together. All of that is such an important part of sustainability. And I think, again, speaking to the youth today, right? Thinking about just your narrative. And if you're a great storyteller, you could be a great business person and a great sustainability professional. So don't overlook your superpower, and your ability to affect change.
100%. Well, I really appreciate that. Now, I don't like to end on a technical conversation. I like to have a little fun. We got to have fun in our industry. So I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
And maybe give a little insight to Eric. And so your question is, what's an experience you've had that not many people know about?
Well, it's probably that I was able to travel as a youth. I remember a lot of experiences where it gave me a global perspective on, a brain that was, I think when you're younger, you have a very limited worldview. I remember having a chance to go to Australia when I was 9 and got in the taxi cab right off the airport, and the taxi cab driver had this great thick Australian accent, and I whispered to my mom, "Wow, did you hear that accent? Did you hear his accent?" And he overheard me and said, "Here, you're the one with the accent." And very simple, common experience, but it blew me away at the age of 9. Like, yeah, I'm the foreigner. I'm a different person. I'm not an American where the world revolves around me. I'm here as a guest. And so I've had a chance to travel a lot. And again, as a youth, it really just gave me the perspective that we are not the center of the universe here in America, number one. And number two, no one person is isolated from a global ecosystem of people and society and culture and business and everything. So that was really special to me.
Yeah. And just because you're not like what happens in America, you don't sound like that doesn't make you any less important.
Correct.
And I think that's a beautiful story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with Hands on Heroes and sharing your story, a little bit about what Salesforce is doing in sustainability. But I don't want to close without getting your comments about the climate accord and being here live. Have you been a part of some of the live conversations prior to the face-to-face?
I have been involved in the Power Working Group.
Okay.
And yesterday I was involved in the maturity model conversation about what's next and where we're going to take it, whatever. So I have definitely been involved, for less than a year probably in this organization, but I'm a kind of a unique professional here in that I'm very, as I said earlier, so we're very downstream from a lot of people here. But it gives me a unique perspective, and it's important for me to sort of help lend that voice to the end user, if you will. We're not a user, but we're the end customer, way down the value chain. So we need to send demand signals that it's important, that it matters to us, matters to our customers, which means it'll matter to the people who are making a lot of decisions here.
And I think that was part of the goal with bringing everybody together, was not just to put a bunch of sustainability people in the room, but to really bring the entire ecosystem together, bring on those different perspectives. Michael said it best, that if everybody in your circle agrees with you, then your group is probably not diverse enough.
It's true.
Right.
It's true.
And so we're putting Band-Aids on situations if everybody agrees with you, rather than really thinking to the end-to-end solution.
Right. And I'll say very clearly that not everyone in our organization has the same opinion about things. And it is a good challenge. And I'm constantly challenged to tell the story better and be clearer with what our objectives are. So we need to be braver, but we also need to be aligned, and bringing alignment together requires every individual to be brave, in addition to organization to be brave.
That's amazing. Well, I think that's a really great note to end on. Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Valerie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much.
This episode is powered by Mod 42, the modular data center company redefining speed to market. From design to delivery, Mod 42 brings precision manufacturing, quality assurance, and trusted execution to every build. When reliability can't wait, Mod 42 delivers. Learn more at mod42.com.
Welcome to Hands on Heroes. I'm here with Roland, and we're at the Climate Accord Summit, the first time we've ever met in person, and getting some of the reactions and insights from the folks at this event. Very excited to have this guest. So thank you so much for joining me. Tell us a little bit of who you are so our audience knows what your background is and how did you get into this industry?
Great. So I'm Roland Ruprecht. I'm a director commercial lead focused on sustainability. I'm in the material science space and more specifically within plastics. And so what really brought me to this event specifically and within sustainability is that plastics are used everywhere. They're a very commercially viable product. They're used in wire and cable, building construction, roofs, floors, conduits. Plastics is more of an older commodity, and there's ways that you can make it more sustainable today and tomorrow that we just need to start aligning these supply chains so that we can, start decarbonizing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, I read somewhere that you are a dedicated chemist. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so interesting. I've had a wonderful career journey, and I started out in operations at the young age of 19. From there, I went into the laboratory as a technician, very interested in what the engineers did. So then I got educated. I went and I learned more around plastics engineering specifically, started doing my own product development, research and development, became an R&D manager. I like leading teams and I liked having impact. So became a technology director. I moved over to Asia, moved back to global technology director, and most recently went on the commercial side so that I could take the technology that the engineers do, but how do we have an impact within the industry? So it's been great.
Oh, that's an incredible story. And I love how learning about people and how they kind of come into these different paths and these different skills and these different backgrounds. And it's the combination of all those amazing skills and backgrounds that allow us to have those innovative conversations at the end of the day. And speaking of innovation and the future, this event really is the first event where folks have met in person. Have you been a part of some of the virtual conversations prior to this face-to-face?
I have been. I'm a working member within the materials working group. Oh. So, looking in how do we take the materials, how do we decarbonize them into meaningful applications that help data center companies.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, we had a full day yesterday, breakout sessions and working together. And then we've had a lot of really great conversations, panels, and keynotes today. Do you think that, Miranda was so excited about this face-to-face. Do you really think that we've moved the needle? She shared with us a few goals that you all have hit. And one was to bring in the full ecosystem, right? Where you had more than just sustainability people in the room, but it was people that you would reach across the aisle to collaborate with at this event. And that box was checked, I think. And then the other one was, really setting a bar or a plan that creates sustainability that's scalable. Do you think they're really meeting the mission at this event?
I absolutely do. There's conversations that's taken place that didn't happen before. There's people within the value chain sitting at the right table, engaging and saying, how do we actually do this? If I go back maybe 1 or 2 years ago, we're kind of further behind within the value chain as a material supplier. I would engage our customers and say, do you want sustainable products? And what they would say is, our customers aren't asking for it. And I can say today, the customers are asking for it. And so they're engaging us differently. What I also see is there's much more of a bringing the different partners together within the value chain. Sure. To say, how do we collaborate and how do we accelerate? And like I said, that didn't happen before. So I think that this, iMasons Climate Accord is making a real difference, not just bringing the people together, but really accelerating decarbonization.
Oh, I think that's amazing and love getting your perspective on that. Now, we had a keynote today, and one of the things that stood out to me was that if you're not uncomfortable with your goals, then you're probably not doing enough.
Yes.
What do you think about that statement?
I fully agree. What I also like that Michael said is look at your goal and reverse it. Because it's easy to convince yourself that you're doing enough, right? Oh, we're going to do a 30% reduction or 70%, whatever it is. Right. But then inverting it and saying we had 30% or 70%, whatever that number is, right, we're still getting sourced from something that's damaging to the environment. So I do. I like all the statements that were made, and it just kind of more a reflection of how do we become more ambitious, and how do we really move the needle.
100%. Yes. Well, I don't like to end on such a technical conversation. I like to ask a little question, give the audience a chance to get to know you, who you are personally. And I pulled a little question out of my box, and I have a little box of questions here. And Gonna see what you say about this. If you were given a free Super Bowl commercial, a free one,
Okay.
you can advertise whatever you want. What would you advertise?
I would advertise to do better. And I think right now we're in a society where it's easy to look at the differences we have, and there's a lot of division that's created. And what I would say is, as a society, individuals, communities, society, we have more in common than we have different.
100%.
And so what I would say is using that Super Bowl as a platform that as a society, we need to do better in all aspects, whether that's sustainability, whether that's getting along, whether that's, anything. Collaboration.
Partnership. I feel like partnership this year was a key word. I kept hearing over and over and over this year. I can't agree more.
Yeah, just do better as a society.
Yeah.
That's a platform I would use to have a free Super Bowl commercial. I think that'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Love that. Well, thanks so much for taking a few minutes on the Hands on Hero podcast, where we plant the seeds of the generation of tomorrow but also highlighting the future and opportunities of today. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, welcome to Hands on Heroes podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We're at the ICA, which is Climate Accord, their very first meeting that they've ever met in person. Have you been meeting with this team virtually up until now? And before we jump into that question, I really would like for you to introduce yourself and kind of let everyone know who you are and what your role is in the industry.
Yeah, certainly. So my name is Casey Mayers, and I've been really developing data centers for about almost 30 years and doing them in about 40 plus countries for a variety of the hyperscalers and end-use providers. And my focus has always been on energy and power and finding and sourcing that. And so this has obviously become a very much more important thing of lately, even though it's always been important. But it's been certainly, I've been very pleased to be able to participate with the iMasons, both Climate Accord and the Power Working Group over the last several years.
Oh, I love that. And so what do you think about this event so far? I mean, today there were a lot of breakout sessions, a lot of discussions. Do you think we're moving the needle in the conversations today?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that we come together and have a conversation, we move the needle. Right? That, I always felt that collaboration is the best thing for innovation, and particularly as an industry. And so we have to be able to come together and do that. And even though we have bi-weekly working group meetings where, a portion of us that are on that working group may be able to join each time, but many of us can't join every time, we're still on a phone call for an hour. And a phone call for an hour, virtual, video call, can't really have a really in-depth conversation like we are having here in person. Right. And particularly, we've already spent a half a day talking about power for our data centers, what some of the challenges are, where some of the solutions are. And really, we're just starting to touch the surface, right? A lot more is obviously going to happen over the next day or day and a half. And I'm very excited for that, because it's the genesis of change. It's a genesis for positive, things that can happen for us collectively as an organization, as an industry.
100%.
Right? And really, as an industry, we need to really work together better, I think, and not that we're working against each other, but obviously the more that we can come together and work together, the less problems that we're going to face in the future. And so I'm excited for this collaboration and the conversations that we are having together here.
Well, I mean, that's really good to hear, because I know Miranda was very excited about setting this up very strategically. Like, she really thought through making sure that these had the small, intimate breakout sessions, and that there were different ways for us to communicate and come together and have that intimacy that you needed to have real intentional conversations today. And as we talk about the future of data centers, we can't have that conversation without saying the word sustainability. I mean, our communities are pushing back on us pretty hard. And frankly, if we don't show up and say, hey, here's what we're going to do about this, you have nothing to be afraid of. It is on the forefront of our mind, just like it is yours. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I'm very proud of as a data center industry veteran is that we are probably one of the most sustainable industries in the world, right? We've been the biggest buyers of renewable energy by far. We've really helped to develop that industry. We've been the biggest, really leaders in energy efficiency and so many other things throughout our industry. And so we talk sustainability, we do sustainability, you do it very well. What we don't do well is really share that externally, and particularly in the communities where we come to develop data centers. And those communities, rightly so, are a little bit afraid. They don't necessarily embrace this, or they don't know what this data center is, but they do maybe hear bad things about data centers from other homeowners and communities, that people in their communities. And so that's not good. It's not good that we've either left a bad image in a community, or that we have come into a community and not really shared with them all the good that we are doing and can do, but also listening and hearing what their concerns are, and then how do we address them, right? And making sure that we are addressing them. Those concerns are real. I was actually just at a wedding yesterday, and after the wedding, I met a gentleman, and he said, we talked about what we did, and I said, doing data centers. And he's like, oh my gosh, this big data center just tried to move in here, and they were going to steal all of our water, and so the community shot him down. He goes, I'm actually I'm favorable to data centers, but the community wasn't, and the way this data center tried to develop was incorrect. And it's great that we're at least having those conversations with our community, but it's unfortunate that we have to have those stories, and I hate to hear more of them, because again, I really believe that we are a fantastic industry doing great things, and I want us to continue to build on the positivity, right? And we should be doing that in the communities where we are conducting our business.
I mean, the reality is, I always compare it to like shark attacks. I mean, the more the news blows it up and talks about a single shark attack, the more you hear about it, you think it's happening all the time, everywhere. But actually, shark attacks are quite rare. And it really gives sharks a bad reputation.
That's right, indeed.
And so similarly, data centers, we've kept them so secret, and they're so plain, and they have these code names, and now we're moving into areas that we've never been. We can't build them fast enough. It is a utility, and we need them to survive. But if we can't educate the community and the politicians don't go about self-educating also. I mean, I think it goes both ways. Really taking the time, rather than just hearing the folks in the community yell about not wanting them there. Really, we just need to spend more time educating them, because they just don't know what they don't know. Like, we understand that this is scary. Just like nuclear is going to be really scary when that comes into your backyard as an option. All they know is what they've heard on the news, which doesn't sound great. I don't think you understand that this is different. Yeah. and frankly, we don't have enough power, and this is the future of power. So we've got to get in front of all of that, and we've got to take charge of that narrative. But our politicians also need to self-educate, and it goes both ways. Because as we call this data center world the gold rush, I immediately start thinking about modern day ghost towns. Let's just talk about the areas that push the data centers out. Don't self-educate. Don't welcome them in. Don't figure out how we can work together to ensure, well, if you don't have the internet and the data center for the big businesses that want to move into there, then they're going to go build someplace that does. And what happens? All the people for those workforces will follow. And so in my mind, as we go into this data center gold rush, I can see, I'm not saying it will, but I can see a modern day ghost town happening to go with it.
Certainly, our data centers you're right. The services that we provide from our data centers are incredibly beneficial to all of us every day, throughout every day. And I think that, a lot of people don't recognize that association between the services that we all receive and use every day, right? Those online services to a data center, and the benefits those provide, as well as the more tangible ones of jobs, really good paying jobs, all different kinds. And no doubt that those are great benefits to any local economy. But also, that data center is generally, it doesn't really provide much impact on that local, call it environment, all right, compared to other industries. And we need to be better about really explaining that, to our local communities, but also hearing what their concerns are, understanding them, and then addressing them. And really, not all communities may want a data center in their backyard. We're all NIMBYs, and that's understandable. But we also have to make sure that we as industry are collectively doing good and showing that good that we're doing, and then really making sure those communities understand the good that we are providing to them when we're coming to them, but also when we're already operating in them, right? Because it's an ongoing effort to make sure that communities recognize the value that data centers provide and the good that we are providing, especially relative to other industrial operations.
Yes, I mean, I couldn't agree more. We've had a lot of conversation today about the technical stuff. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's why this summit is here. It's really to show our community that we are doing something about it. We're not just talking the talk, we're actually putting actions into place. We're creating plans. We're creating a scalable plan for that matter. And we're coming together as an entire ecosystem to determine what that solution is. And I think it's so beautiful.
Indeed, it is.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk about all of this with me. I always like to have a little fun with my guests at the very end. Here's the reality. We live in a fast-paced, intense industry, and every once in a while, you just kind of have to have a little fun and laugh. So I pulled a little question out of my question stack here, and I want to ask you, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Yeah, I would say like in a business setting like this, sometimes when we introduce somebody and we ask them tell them a little about themselves to us, sometimes we go on, and I've done this myself sometimes, but I certainly see in others as well, where we can kind of provide like a resume or chronology of our history. And a lot of times we don't need all that. We can kind of jump to the chase and let's get to the really meat of the discussion, and maybe we just say, look, I'm really good or understand, or I'm an expert on this one thing. That's what I can talk about well, right? And maybe just get right to the point. And not have to give kind of our whole chronology. I think it's partly in a way where maybe we're fluffing our own feathers, because it shouldn't be about really fluffing our feathers, right? We're all here together as equals, as colleagues, working, with different levels of experience and expertise. Like, let's just share that, enjoy that, listen to each other, and really all, learn from each other and gain from each other. And it doesn't have to be any kind of like an ego, around some sort of a background.
Yes. I definitely have seen that before, where they just suck the entire air up in the room, and people are dropping off the meeting and they're still going on their introduction. Right. And we're like, wow, we just really wanted to get to the conversation. And now we have 5 minutes left, and it was supposed to be a 20-minute quick 5 minutes for everyone to introduce themselves. So it's not only a pet peeve, but just really great advice, to be honest.
I used to run about roughly 12 video conferences a day, or 12 meetings a day on a weekly basis, so around 90 meetings over a week. And if everybody introduces themselves, right, and spends 5 minutes to introduce himself, you lose all that time, right? So you just have to get down, let's get business done. We just have to get to that bottom. And we can set up time separately to introduce ourselves, like at this cocktail party that's happening right now in front of us. So these are great opportunities to go and get to know each other a little better. And hopefully also get to know each other, not just on a professional basis, but on a personal basis as well. Right. I understand, like, oh, you're a mother, you're a father, right? What's important to you is your gardening in your yard, whatever it is, right? Those are, I think, important attributes that are good to know about people, because it just shows that we're all people, right? We all have a life outside of this industry and what we do every day that make us people, and people that we can relate to and understand, and adds a nice little added personal element to who they are.
Wow, that is really good advice. I can't agree more. I mean, it's why I love capturing the human story behind it all. And it's why I love seeing the energy here in these really intimate type of summit settings that allows everybody to kind of get to know each other and go to a deeper level in solutions and moving the needle, right?
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Valerie.
Yeah, thank you for joining me on this. This was a lot of fun.
I appreciate it.
All right, cheers. Welcome to Hands on Heroes podcast. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me here at the Climate Accord.
Thank you.
Super fun to be meeting all these new faces in sustainability world, to where, usually it's just a small piece of a conference. Right. And here we have an entire summit just dedicated to this. And I think that's really special.
Yeah. It's how it should be. Sustainability is, by definition, it's what allows us to make progress and to move forward. And I love, as you said, I love for it to be integrated into the entire conference, but I would love for sustainability. I dream of a world when it's just business as usual, integrates these ideas and metrics.
It's true. I had a panel on my podcast a few months ago, and I think it was Karen Cooper who said, we should integrate sustainability as if it were, no different than ADA. You wouldn't be questioning 100%. Whether or not you're putting a ramp in or a handicap bathroom in as part of cutting a budget. it just immediately goes into that.
It goes in. I mean, I would even go so far as to say, you want to make sustainability boring. It should be accounting. Just like GAAP accounting is how businesses have to sort of hold their books. This is sustainability should be integrated. I mean, make sustainability boring. That's my goal.
All right. Well, before we go into any deeper, I'm here with Sarah. Sarah, why don't we start with introducing who you are, and then let's jump back into that conversation and talk a little bit more about it.
Yes, my boring ideas. Yes. So let's see, I've been in the sustainability world for probably the last 15 or so years, sort of officially. I am a recovering commercial real estate banker. So nothing, again, boring, right. Just sort of doing all of the banker things to just help large developers and REITs get financing. But I got into sustainability because it felt like we were looking backward to go forward, right. And it didn't make sense. Right. And it just nagged at me that we were not sort of evaluating things in the right way. So anyways, long story short, I went back to school and I studied public health and urban planning because I knew, again, we needed to look forward and sort of evaluate things in a way that was more helpful to people, to the planet, and just was more thoughtful and sort of progressive. And so I studied public health and urban planning, moved up to New York, and then essentially found a dream job helping to develop a standard for integrating health and well-being or evaluating health and well-being within real estate. Anyways, long story short, spent a bulk of time there, went into sustainability consulting, worked for an asset manager, and then now I'm at GRESB.
That is incredible. It's a really great journey. And I think it's, we've been talking, I think the subject the last few days has been being courageous, right? And I think what you just described was very courageous of you to be kind of going down one career path and saying, I'm going to pivot. And this passion can also be a career where I can go back and not only give back to the industry,
for sure,
but help move the needle.
For sure.
I believe in that so much, because I think when that vision is placed on your heart, it happens to me probably more than I like.
Perfect evidence. Perfect evidence.
But it's like when that vision is placed on your heart for a reason. Right. You just got to do something about it. And sometimes it requires you to take a little leap of faith in yourself and do it scared.
You have to do it scared. I mean, I grew up in Atlanta and moved to New York. Now, the only caveat I'd say is I got to move to New York. Yes. Like it was, it was scary, but it was also awesome. So, but yeah, I mean, you have to sort of leave everything behind and then launch into this new world. But then, the cool part is you look back and you're like, it was worth it. It was worth it. And I feel really complimented. I got to participate in STEM night at my kids' school last year. And it was awesome, standing up there. And I used AI to generate 2 images to explain what I do. And I had, 4 images. So I had a bad and a good playground. And I essentially said, which would you choose? And the kids, of course, point to the one. And I said, well, that's exactly what I do. I choose between sort of bad and good, real estate, bad and good infrastructure, bad and good, like any real asset you can develop in a smart way or a less sort of informed way. And it made it really kind of basic for these kids. And of course they got it. And it's like, right, that's what I do. That's what I do.
I think we really underestimate the sponges and how much they will absorb if we just go to them and bring them the seeds and plant that. And that's part of my, my mission, of course. And the more that we can do that, the more that we can kind of guide the future toward our needs, because they're really, that exposure is, something's going to excite them. Right. And that excitement turns into, I want to do something in that world. And I think that's a big deal. Now
they're asking the questions.
Yes. No, they are.
I mean, they, as you said, they're being informed. And my kid teased me the other day. She said, Mommy, do we drive an electric car? And I said, oh no, my love, we don't drive an electric car. And she said, oh, okay. She said, that's not good for the environment. It generates a lot of emissions. And I said, well, operational or embodied? And because it's an older car. And she looked at me and I said, see, you asked too many questions. No, I'm teasing. But it was, it was nice that she was at least probing and, much like what I do at GRESB, right? And sort of cut to the chase. But like, you inform the conversation. So she could be the investor in this case. And she's saying to her, real asset manager, why don't you have an electric vehicle? And I would say, well, because if I sold the car we have now and bought a new one, it would be more embodied carbon. So yes, it would have lower, operational emissions. But at this point in time, this car is serving its purpose and it will be replaced with a more efficient car. But right now, the decision is to keep it. And from a capital standpoint, and again, from an embodied carbon standpoint, it's the better decision. So that's exactly what my job is, right? To do as well.
Right. To just kind of break it down and be able to share and educate. And she probably got it. And she's asking those questions. Right. And she's hearing you, and she's a sponge, and she's learning. I think, when I think about STEM, I think about a lot of the programs really do include robotics and coding and things like that. But then I'll hear them say something about maybe sustainability or construction or any of that type of stuff. And suddenly it falls off the STEM category and we just call it something else. Yeah. And we're talking about science, technology, engineering, math. Fun. Construction touches absolutely everything. And when it comes to sustainability, there's a pretty big marriage there because construction is one of the largest contributors.
Right.
So that's really interesting, which I think is a good segue into what is GRES?
Right. So as I just sort of explained, my daughter is the investor, me as the manager. We help facilitate that informed conversation between those two parties.
Okay.
So we provide benchmarking and assessments of real assets so that investors can evaluate how their investments are performing.
Interesting.
And they can have that conversation with the managers, much like my daughter and me had, and make progress. So set ambitions, and each year essentially check in on those ambitions.
That's incredible. So is it like a life cycle costs, or is it bigger than just life cycle costs?
It's bigger. So so I specifically oversee what's called the GRES Foundation, and the foundation owns and evolves the standards by which these real assets are managed. Yeah. So so we have 100 plus volunteers that help sort of contribute to this entire process. Wow. Right. Yeah. And overseen by a foundation board, and they ultimately help deliver these standards to the industries, year over year.
Now, how does that get delivered into communities? Is that through the design teams, into their specifications? How does that get delivered?
It trickles down. So basically the sort of process is investors, want to have more transparency into where their dollars are going. So they would ask the managers, a report to GRES, and so that we can get the output and understand where we're going. But the ultimate kind of byproduct of that is that it does trickle down through their, operations decisions, their development decisions, all of the ways that the capital and operating, the money is spent in the development operations and of all real assets.
So it sounds like you help connect the dot for them, not only just sort of what those policies and standards could be and help them move and define what that is, but also the data for how it helps reduce the carbon footprint and break that down. Because sometimes they're like, hey, I want to do this, but I don't know how to necessarily report out on it.
Right.
I don't know.
And I want to be given credit for doing those things. And that's, and therein is
that's a really great point. Yes.
Right. And I want to do the right thing, but I ultimately need to, and somebody said this morning, turn down my offer and say you're turning it down because I didn't do X, Y, or Z. I mean, that's so powerful, right? Because then you can go to your leadership and say, we lost this deal because we didn't do X, Y, and Z. And in the same way, flipping it on its head, right? In the same way, I did X, Y, and Z, and that's why I won the deal, or that's why I got the investment, or, that's why I got, in some cases, it's why you get the tenant, in an office or at a data center. And again, getting back to kids, I read a statistic the other day that it took sort of the generations and how we're investing our dollars. And of course, older generations care less about sustainability per this survey. But as you look at sort of the people who will have influence in the near future, they care greatly
greatly. Gen Z is very much looking into companies who take this very seriously because they're the ones who have to live in it, not the folks currently running the companies.
Don't even get me started. To have so many like people who are, in their last working years are like, oh, it's fine, this sustainability hoopla. And you're like, just because you'll be 6 feet under, when any of this stuff hits the fan, like that, I can't, I got to think about, our kids.
Well, I think Michael said it best this morning when in the keynote where it was the question was, write a letter to your grandchildren. Wow. That gave me goosebumps. Write a letter to your grandchildren and explain to them what that future looks like for you and what we did now to address it. And what would that letter say? What are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? And we, I saw, having a question about like, are you doing enough, or how would you grade yourself on sustainability? And that's a hard question to answer. By virtue of where we live, there's so many factors, but it's like, and sometimes it's harder, but, and again, getting back to sort of how I switched careers, I live in New York now, and you can think about health outcomes. I walk everywhere, and that's good for you.
Yes.
And I don't have to make the decision to work out because it happened. It's just the default choice, right? And so again, getting to sustainability being the boring choice, as much as we can get to the place that it's just the default and it's just what we do. And it's, something as little as using a reusable water bottle or what have you. There's so many small things, but like, every day that we can make progress towards that, I think they're small. And I don't mean to sort of blame end users, because I think we're often not the problem. And there's much more structural challenges. But like, as much as we can get to a place where, again, we're demanding that things are created in a better way and that we can just make it the default choice. That's very aspirational, but.
Well, I found it very interesting in the keynote about Unilever and how they said, most every 90 days, we've got to report out and we've got to show that we've made money. And they said, in spite of that, we're still going to put these sustainability policies into place, even if it means we lose money. And they actually ended up getting the opposite response from the industry. And I sat there, and the thing that popped in my head was, I think everybody wants to contribute somehow. And if they know that I'm buying a Unilever product, and that's my way of giving back, that's something they can get on board with. It's easy. It's obtainable. You're kind of removing this pathway out of their way for them to do a little something, even if that's all they do is buy responsibly. And I just found that really interesting.
It is interesting. And again, getting back to kids these days, and they're trying to make the right choices, and we need to make sure that we're making it be the easy choice. There is this fear, though, that it's sort of the small wins, and then we kind of let everything else fall by the wayside. So we need to, there's a balance to be made. But I do think the fact that, getting back to GRESB data, we are going to be able to show the effect of these sort of decisions in aggregate. So I think more and more transparency is going to ultimately have, a strong impact, because it's not going to be just greenwashing and just marketing. And actually, to pull it to present day, there's been a lot of sort of pullback on sustainability disclosures and ambitions, et cetera, et cetera. And I think one of the positive outcomes is we will be forced, much like your example in Unilever, we will be forced to demonstrate that it's the smarter business decision also. And you can't, no matter what color or whatever your political disposition is, you can't argue with it's the right choice on both fronts. And again, that's the that's the world in which we need to operate.
100%. And I think that transparency you talked about, I'm going back to the keynote again. I started thinking about the Patagonia and how they wrote a letter and just were very transparent. And they said, we can do better. And I think that goes back to flipping it on its head. You think you're doing a lot. Now turn it around. Are you?
What else? Right.
What else can you do?
Right.
And then does it make you uncomfortable?
Right.
And if it doesn't, then maybe you're not being courageous enough.
Right. I mean, right. It's not, these are not, the easy decisions are not how we get stuff done. I mean, and we constantly need to be sort of challenging. And again, the question about, are you, what's your grade on sustainability? If you don't have to sort of test yourself or push yourself, like, you're not going to grow. You're not going to get better. I mean, that's, again, my boss always teases me. We use, marathons as the constant example. It's never going to get easier, but you're going to get faster. And you're going to get stronger. And it's, the pain of the training will always be there, but that's how you know you're making progress.
I always hear that little saying in my head when you get on the wrong train. And you've been on the wrong train for too long, it makes it very, very difficult, or it takes you a lot longer to get back to turn around and get back to the right stop. And I think that's where this comes in, is we're talking about getting on the right train so that we can make, even if it's the small movements, there's momentum behind that, and it snowballs and it multiplies and it draws more people. There's going to be late adopters, right? You're still going to have naysayers 100% of the way. But I think that we have to set a new foundation. And the Gen Zs are going to come in and say, yeah, this is something I can stand on. Now watch me grow this.
And what choice, what choice do we have? And I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day, and she was saying her aunt, so this is, and she's passed 30 years ago almost. And in her sort of youth, she was even sort of thoughtful about and had sort of anxiety about the future of the planet. But what I was saying to my aunt is, her name is B, B used to be worried about the planet. And I said, we don't need to worry about the planet. The planet's going to kick us off, regenerate. She'll be fine. But we are setting ourselves up for a lot of pain if we don't get it together. So
that brings us back to the summit and why we're all here, and bringing that ecosystem together to really understand the end-to-end solution, right? It wasn't just a bunch of sustainability in a silo having a conversation. It genuinely was an entire ecosystem talking about, how do we address this from end to end? How do we make it scalable? How do we move the needle? I love that. What part of the summit have you been engaging with, and love to share a little bit more of your experience so far in the summit?
I'm so happy to see that it's been so fully integrated and so well attended, and everybody is, captively listening to all the speakers. This is wonderful to see. Yesterday, we hosted our, third in-person data center working group. So GRESB is partnering with iMasons to create a standard for data centers. So precisely, so it's an iteration of all the things I had said before about creating this this communication channel, or lubricating this communication channel between all of the stakeholders that are involved in developing, operating, and owning data centers. So that was the bulk of my day yesterday, was bringing together, all of these people. And it's awesome because, I'm an extrovert. So, we sit at home and we do all of our virtual meetings, and I'm like, I just want to be with people. I just want to be with people. And so I'm always so excited when people show up.
Yeah, energized.
And energized, and you remember like why we're here, and it's to bring people together and to have creativity and ideas flowing. And so anyway, so that was the bulk of the day yesterday, and then I'm on the stage again with Miranda this afternoon as one of the closing sessions. So
Beautiful. I can't wait to hear about it. You touched on something. I'm also an extrovert, but I've met quite a few introverts at this event. I mean, I don't want to bypass the fact that this whole summit really has created an energy and a buzz, and love being around people. But there's some people who would rather not, be in a big room with a bunch of people, but this has felt intimate and safe.
It's not, actually, I was talking to Miranda about this yesterday. It is, it's not squished. It's intimate, as you said. And she set it up in a way that there's, breakout sessions. So you can go with your subgroup or your committee, your working group, as it were. And then, but you can also come together and, be part of the bigger groups. Again, I think, I'll credit to Miranda for coordinating all this, but it's been nice that it doesn't feel overwhelming and it's not exhausting. I mean, there's exhaustion just by virtue of all the things, but
all the energy you put out into it because you're so excited.
Yes. Well, and sort of prepping and all of the things, but it's not exhausting in the sense of, oh my gosh, I've had to talk to too many people about, in sort of make small talk, if you will, right? Like in so many ways that when we're networking, it's like,
I've said the same thing 10 times to 10 different people.
Yeah. And this is much more, it does feel more sincere. Like you're having conversations about things that we have to get done. Like, oh, we talked last week about this deliverable, let's talk about the thing. Or, oh, we're talking, we're developing this new standard. Do you want to learn about it? Let's talk about that. And so it all does feel useful and productive and all that.
You're learning. You're actually developing working session plans to launch it, right? You're gathering together in small groups to move that needle and come up with, multiple perspectives.
Right.
And if you don't have that, you really are only touching one component of that end-to-end stream. If you don't bring all the people into the conversation, you're going to miss something.
Right.
And so I love the way this has been set up. It's been such a lovely, exciting time. And I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. Yeah. So I want to kind of switch over to a fun question.
Okay.
I always ask everybody a fun question because, in this world of fast-paced stress and everything and technical, it's always nice to just take a minute and learn some fun facts about people. So your question would be, would you rather be in trouble with your partner, your boss, or your mother?
All of the above. I love, don't tell my husband, I love being in trouble. First of all, it gives you something to talk about. No, it's, and my mom would stand here shaking her head. She knows. It's an indication that you're pushing. You're pushing.
You're pushing back.
Otherwise you're boring. Right. Who wants to be boring? Nobody wants to be boring. No, you're pushing the boundary and you're challenging preconceived notions.
Sure.
You're trying new things. Yeah. How else are we going to make progress?
100%. You don't make, diamonds are not made unless they're under pressure.
Under pressure.
Right.
Under pressure. And it's, don't tell my kids because we never want them to be in trouble, but it's how you learn. It's how you improve. Again, getting back to the training one, every training session a portion of all training sessions will be failure. You will not achieve them. And that's how you make progress.
You make progress because you learn from
something. You learn from it and you find what that edge is. And again, it's, you don't want to be in big trouble, but you want to be in enough trouble that you can say, all right, we tried that thing and it didn't work.
So I think that takes some courage though, right? You can sit around and be a yes person. And if you're a leader who wants to be surrounded by yes people, then you're probably not moving the needle.
Yeah.
You're certainly not creating continuous improvement.
Right.
And you're likely have teams that are in firefighting mode all the time.
Right.
Or unhappy. But if you're someone who's willing to be courageous and question the status quo, why is that?
And
like
want
your daughter.
Sincerity. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want a sincerity, but why did you surround yourself with these people to say yes? You want to surround yourself with people who, to your comment before about sort of that perspective, you want to surround yourself with people that have different perspective because otherwise there's no value add. And bringing people to the table who see things differently than you is how you have a more complete picture.
Yes.
It's how you get that panoramic as opposed to just the tiny little shot.
Well, I mean, or, you have the oh, it's always worked. Why break it? Why change it?
Right.
But
Until it doesn't.
And I've seen so many small businesses fail because what worked as a small little tribe doesn't, everybody knew what to do. And then they grow really fast, and
or the
new people
world
come
around
in and,
you changes. I mean,
and
again,
the world around you changes.
And the reason I left, from pivoted careers in the first place was that we were looking backward to go forward, and there was no respect for how the world was going to change and what people were going to demand and what people were going to want. And that's not a very, it's not, first of all, it's not good in risk management, but it's also not good at capitalizing on opportunities that could potentially be in front of you. And again, getting in trouble and sort of turning over those rocks is how you find, where those opportunities are. So.
No, I think the risk management piece is a really good point, because if you're not questioning it, then maybe you're not dialing into what your risk is, and then it catches you off guard for sure. And goodness, if it ends up being something that could be catastrophic, and you've never made a safe space for people to ask questions, to push the boundaries, to create improvement, then you're not making space for innovation and creativity and growth and flexible mindsets and balanced perspectives. And so you're really putting that risk back on yourself by not doing that. Wow. So I love that we turned that around. What do they say about women who are in trouble? What's that saying?
Yes. Rarely do well-behaved women make history.
That's right. Kudos to that.
I know. Amen. No, it's so true. I know. Trouble is it's underrated. We should all be in a little bit of trouble.
Every once in a while, we need to just sit back and go, what's that based on?
Yes. And and it's plus it's more fun.
It's more fun.
And yes, we're always looking for the fun.
Well, thank you so much for being on Hands on Heroes, and I appreciate everything you're doing. And it's very exciting to see this partnership with iMasons, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
Well, and right back at you.
Yeah.
Right back at you. No, I can't wait to see where you go. This is wonderful.
Thanks, Sarah.
Awesome.
Right, cheers.
Thank you for watching this episode of Hands on Heroes. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click on the bell to get notified every Thursday that a new video has been posted. And while we're here, check out another episode. Also, if you're interested in joining the mission, either as a guest speaker or sponsor, visit handsonheroes.net for more information, or reach out to us directly at info@handsonheroes.net.